Chapter 1228. Dad, did you come to pick me up? The person in the painting is her dad, the king of this country, and one of the most powerful wizards on the continent. Come over here. Your life has been prepared for this day, my child. The king, wearing a magical robe, smiled and showed a gentle gaze to his daughter. You were created by me, the most suitable sacrifice. My best masterpiece. All the preparations are for the end. All the long-awaited reunions are destined. I have been waiting for this day for too long. I'm sorry, but now I have to use your body and soul as payment in a trade with the Netherworld. Behind him, a huge magical formation with mysterious patterns emerged. In the center of that formation were all the fallen leaves from the princess's crane drawing. Those leaves represent the princess's life and soul. Without saying more, the princess understood why she got sick and why her drawings had changed like that. Daddy, I love you the most. The little princess closed her eyes, tears trickling down her face. Father, have I completed my mission? As the chosen sacrifice? No, it's not like that, it's a lie, a lie. My dear father, the most perfect and remarkable king in the world, the best dad ever. Princess Past refused to accept this reality, to believe in this ending. Even though she was created and sacrificed by the king of Netherworld himself, she refused to believe it. So, she sealed away this memory, hiding the truth deep inside her heart, creating an illusion. She regarded the king of undead, who had been defeated, as her own father and believed that she hadn't died, but had become a powerful weapon to fight alongside her father. She is a princess who is no longer with us, the sole core of the Black Iron Giant. She is fearless, even tearing apart dragons as her opponent. Attack, Black Iron Giant. As the past princess, she sweeps away all opponent. Why does it have to remind her? Why is this considered the so-called truth? No, she doesn't want this kind of truth, she doesn't want this kind of answer. Instead of accepting this fate, acknowledging being betrayed by the person she values the most, and facing the ending of being killed, she would rather have the illusion she created for herself. The king of undead in the underground cemetery is her esteemed father, and she has never left the side of her beloved father. She died from an illness, but it was just a small incident in her transformation into a powerful weapon for her father's war. In reality, she gained the immense power of the Black Iron Giant and fought for her father. Don't look inside me. I'm not like that. I don't want it. Leave that place, don't look at my drawings. The princess wept loudly, while the massive body of the Black Iron Giant curled up like a baby, unable to even open its eyes, let alone fight. Weak and powerless. Just an appearance. Morris looked at the collapsed Black Iron Giant with disdain. It fell to its knees with just a bit of mental contamination. This giant is useless. The Emerald Sea Dragon beast on the other side didn't fare any better. Despite hearing the voice of the Rift Space Dragon and promptly opening the water curtain Heavenly Splendor, a contaminated fairy mayfly cannon still invaded the body of the Emerald Sea Dragon beast. The princess's biggest weakness in her heart was the memory of her illness and being sacrificed by her own father. Similarly, the war dancer also has similar weaknesses. Her death, caused by people who were once inspired and protected by her, using random objects to kill her. The water is very deep. A feeling of familiarity that struggles helplessly, falling towards an endless abyss. Gurgle, wanting to stay alive, wanting to escape. There are still people waiting for her. She can't die here. If she dies, the songstress will never be able to survive. Gurgle, gurgle. The water curtain Heavenly Splendor that envelops the Emerald Sea Dragon beast gradually turns black, a sign of the war dancer's mind field being corrupted and polluted. Helpless, unable to win, no way out. Faced with the power from the abyss, the war dancer resists with great effort. Compared to the younger past princess, her resistance was undoubtedly stronger, but facing the erosion from the abyss was still a great challenge, only a difference of 50 or 100 steps. All the soul cores are treasures created by the King of Undead by collecting souls with special traits. In this process, the power of the secret treasures from the Ten Leaves Alliance was utilized, precious resources previously used by the former King of Undead to win the war against the Dragon Clan. The problem is, the Ada from the Abyss is particularly skilled at corrupting souls and willpower, Even Leviathan, the sky beast in the current state of Su, couldn't escape its grip, let alone the mortal past princess and war dancer. Oh no! Songstress, disappear. The Rift Space Dragon, observing the battlefield, rolled at full speed, evading the pursuit of up to 6 fairy dragon cannons, attracting the most firepower among several ancient weapons. The fairy dragon cannons that pounced on the Opera House Phantom successfully invaded the interior of this ancient weapon, but it turned out to be empty. The Opera House Phantom's existence is completely different from other ancient weapons. As soon as it heard the sound of the Rift Space Dragon, it escaped back to the depths of the underground cemetery, fortunate amidst the misfortune. The Black Iron Giant and Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, who were contaminated, were now beyond the kingdom's shield's power. No! No! The Black Iron Giant hugged its body with its limbs, shaking like a baby about to regress. Gurgle! Countless black bubbles appeared in the water curtain heavenly splendor of the Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, a sign of drowning. Ha ha ha! Unbearable! It's unbearable! What's this underground cemetery, the king of undead? In front of the Great Ada, they're all just small fry. Morris's voice echoed in front of the Babylon Sky Tower, and the electric spear in his hand began to emit a dazzling electric light, locking onto the despairing silver figure. It shouldn't be like this. Yunshi reached out his hand and grabbed the black spear piercing through Elphilis's body, slowly pulling the cursed spear out of her. Endless anger burned in those silver eyes, a fury that could incinerate the world. Chapter 12:29 Killing Intent. In all the star trials he had undertaken, Yunshi rarely truly wanted to kill anyone. Even when the green-skinned hippo from the dark forest nearly drove him to the brink of a mental breakdown, his thoughts were more focused on winning rather than killing. Before awakening the memories of the star group, he was just an ordinary bread baker in a small town, with the biggest wish of marrying his childhood sweetheart and leading a simple life. Even though he had started the star trials and constantly pushed himself to the limit to avoid being pursued by his terrifying ex-girlfriends, he rarely felt the urge to kill his enemies. However, this time was an exception. Witnessing Elphilis, the gentle girl he had admired, being pierced and pinned to a tower by a black spear, an uncontrollable desire to kill began to surge within Yunshi. He would never kill someone without a reason, but now he wants to kill. No, he will definitely kill. Elphilis. I'm sorry. The faceless god reached out its big hand and grabbed the black electric spear stuck in Elphilis's heart. The black electric spear, corrupted by the power of the abyss, released a massive current that could barbecue even a giant statue, but Yunshi's hand, perfectly synchronized with the faceless god, didn't tremble at all. Doesn't it hurt? It does. The black current with the power of the abyss did indeed damage the Parfu system on the arm of the faceless god, causing Yunshi to feel a sharp pain, as if his muscles were being torn apart. But compared to the pain Elphilis has experienced, it's insignificant. The pain he is currently experiencing is not even 1% of what Elphilis has endured. TSK. Ha. The electrical attack didn't have the desired effect. The black electric spear began to heat up, and a terrifying wave of heat engulfed the right hand of the faceless god, causing 1/10 of Parfu's body to be in a state of near death. Yunshi still didn't let go. He grabbed the tower with his other hand and pulled hard. Take that. Countless fragments of ice flew around as the black spear tip that had pierced Elphilis's heart was forcibly pulled out by the faceless god. This is also related to the ability of the refrigerator, which is the absolute zero temperature barrier. The black electric spear, with the curse of the abyss, was pulled out of the refrigerator by the power of the faceless god in its static state of absolute zero. The cracks left by the black spear on the surface of the refrigerator were quickly filled with freezing air, and then closed. Elphilis, sleeping in the refrigerator, apart from the shocking wound on her chest, looked as if she was just sleeping. Have a good sleep. No matter what it takes, I will save you. Yunshi reached out and grabbed the ice block, which was as tall as the two of them, and held it against his chest. Parfu voluntarily opened the chest armor of the faceless god and stored the frozen Elphilis inside. Originally, there was only a big block of ice in Yunshi's core area. The curious Parfu system connected to this big block of ice and seemed to make a huge discovery, transmitting excitement to Yunshi. Parfu told Yunshi that this huge block of ice, which was at absolute zero, could be used as a cooling system for the faceless god. Compared to the ice ball created by the Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, which could only withstand attacks from the legend ranked, this absolute zero freezer effect was several levels better. The ice ball created by the Emerald Sea Dragon Beast was not long-lasting and required a continuous supply of magic power from the beast itself. On the other hand, the freezer at absolute zero had a unique magic circulation system and could theoretically maintain this state for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. This was not a hero-ranked ability, but a precious life-saving skill derived from the existence of the legend-ranked called field. It could be said that in the entire world of Sia, there was no other treasure as powerful as this, almost like a half-eternal freezing mechanism. Understood, Yunshi looked at Elphilis, who was sleeping behind him, with gentle eyes, but his pupils began to reveal endless killing intent. Ha ha ha, the underground cemetery and ancient weapons are all in the past. Now, it's the era of the Black God Order, the ruler of darkness. The brand new Leviathan Empire is about to rise to the top of the world. Morris's wild laughter echoed in the sky above the Babylon Sky Tower, and he truly had the qualifications to laugh like that. The most powerful 4 ancient weapons of the underground cemetery. The Black Iron Giant fell into a state of fear and astonishment, abandoning the fight. The Emerald Sea Dragon Beast fell into a state of drowning and abyss, unable to continue fighting. The Opera House Phantom escaped from the battle and disappeared. The Rift Space Dragon could only rely on its speed and 6 Dark Fairy cannons to keep fighting. Defeat was just a matter of time. The most important thing is that the strongest hero of the Divine Era in the whole underground cemetery, recognized by the world rules as the King of Undead, was hit by a deadly blow. Now, the only one who still has complete fighting power is the Silver Giant from the Sia Kingdom, also known as the Faceless God. This is not a coincidence, but Morris purposely left this opponent. He wants to prove to the whole world that as an apostle of the abyss, he has the power to suppress the entire world. The guardian of the Sia Kingdom is the stepping stone he prepared for himself. Even the mighty king of undead from the underground cemetery, he was nailed to death with just one abyssal projection, without leaving behind a toy to play with. It would be a waste if he didn't take advantage of the Black King. The collision of steel and steel. The bloody battle between giants. It's not about deciding the fate of the world with weak and powerless spellcasters like the King of Undead, but about the victory or defeat between 2 superweapons of war. This is the summit battle that determines the fate of the world. The Silver Giant defeated the Black Iron Giant, the Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, and even the legendary Rift Space Dragon. Only opponents like these are worthy of his title as the strongest. By shooting the King of Undead and defeating the Silver Mysterious Giant head-on, Morris set the perfect stage for himself in a script called The Day of Darkness. Today, he is the protagonist of this world. He has waited too long for this moment, a moment destined to be recorded in world history. I'll give you 3 moves. Morris proudly raised his black electric spear and aimed it at the faceless god who had turned around. Crack! The sound of armor breaking suddenly rang in Morris's ears. Surprised, he lowered his head and saw a black spear piercing through his body. Why does this spear look so familiar? Chapter 1230. The long black spear is 10 meters long and made up of 2 parts. The spear body, about 6 meters long, has a dark shimmer. The front part of the spear is in a conical shape, resembling a penetration structure. Among them, the tip of the spear exceeds 2 meters and becomes smaller as it gets closer to the front. When it reaches the last half meter, it becomes so tiny that it can almost instantaneously pierce through any known material defense in the world, too small to be seen with the naked eye. This is also why, although Elphilis was pierced by this black long gun, the wound on her chest was not very large. The black armor she wore was made of bone, infused with the power of the netherworld. It also had multiple shields attached to it, but it still couldn't withstand the penetration of this black electrified long spear with abyssal power. From locking onto her heart to piercing through all defenses, pinning Elphilis to the Babylon Sky Tower, it took less than 2 seconds. In this amount of time, a normal mage wouldn't even be able to cast a decent spell, but Elphilis had already activated a defensive sequence of over 5 layers. If her opponent wasn't an incarnation of the will from the abyss, and hadn't drawn upon the power of the Primeval Sea in this world, it would probably have been possible for Elphilis to defend against Morris' deadly ambush. It was only when Morris himself was pierced by the black long spear that he personally experienced the terrifying lethality of this abyssal black gun, which had been modified by Ada. The Black King's armor, which had turned into an abyss-like material, was unable to escape the fate of being pierced and torn apart. In an instant, it was shattered, bringing Morris, who was inside the cockpit at the heart position, with it, reduced to ashes. The extremely sharp armor-piercing tip, like a nail, penetrated into the Black King's body. Unlike the petite Elphilis, the Black King didn't have multiple shields, natural protection, and the ultimate defense of a refrigerator. This single strike blew off half of Morris' body, mainly the lower half. What is this? Morris looked at his completely evaporated lower body, now only holding a gigantic spear that had pierced through. His legs, waist, and a certain important part were instantly evaporated by this strike, and the high temperature and electrical charge lingering on the black electric spear easily destroyed everything. Zing! Zing! Massive electrical currents raced within the Black King. Although most of the power was absorbed by the Black King, the remaining part allowed Morris to truly experience the sensation of 1,000,000 volts. No! No! Morris let out a miserable shout, unable to believe that he had been defeated like this. The battle hadn't even started yet, when he proudly shouted out his well-prepared slogan to challenge the silver-white giant. But in a blink of an eye, he was struck down by a black electric spear thrown by the opponent, losing his lower body. Are you kidding me? How could I lose? I am a disciple of the Abyss, Morris. Looking at his only half of a body left, Morris went mad. A large amount of black mist leaked out from his body, then began to shape his lower half. Such an injury would have been fatal for a human, but Morris, as a disciple of the Abyss, believed he still had hope. As long as he believed in the great Ada, even if he died and came back to life, it wouldn't be impossible. Losing his lower body was nothing to fear. As Morris hoped, his lost lower body gradually grew back, but it didn't look the way he imagined. Instead of his original legs, he now had 4 tentacle-like limbs covered in black suckers, resembling the skin of deep-sea eels. This wasn't a human's lower body, but the lower body of a disciple of the Abyss, or rather, how Morris originally looked after being completely eroded by the power of the Abyss. Ha ha ha, like this, is it like this? I can't be a person anymore. Seeing his lower body grow back, Morris' eyes became even more crazy, and he almost lost his sanity. Strangely, there wasn't much sense of loss, just a feeling that it was always this way. This is actually his true appearance. The black tentacles extended, skillfully replacing Morris' original legs, and began to connect to the black tyrant for self-repair. Not only that, Morris' upper body, which he had maintained in a human posture, also began to gradually deform, smoothly growing small flesh tendrils, the muscles' texture became even tougher, and even the blood changed color to ink. Yunshi's shot pierced through the last remaining human semblance of Morris. From the day he accepted Ada's power, abandoning his human position, and willing to get the power of the Abyss at any cost, this was the destined outcome. The whispers of the Abyss constantly entangled his ears, step by step pulling this elite knight of the Empire into another dimension. At this moment, this posture is the most common posture of the lower Abyss apostles. In the past, the deep-sea race believed in the old gods because their appearance completely matched their aesthetic views. A divine being with tentacles is the most perfect divine being. Boom! 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 The steel armor on the outside of the Black King began to detach, revealing its inner body entangled with countless black flesh. Leviathan's strongest scientific single-soldier weapon is completely abandoning its scientific part and evolving towards a darker and scarier direction. This is not the Black King. The mechanical model is too terrible. Poincare shook his head witnessing the mutation of the Black King. The ideal Black King is a powerful titled machine with high defense and explosive power, and the most important characteristic is its ability to match various scientific side weapons. Including the small spiral electromagnetic cannon being researched, the Type 3 Fairy Dragon Light Cannon, and the codename weapons in the developmental stage, these are the weapons that are being prepared to be equipped on the Black Overlord in the future, symbolizing the pinnacle of scientific wisdom in this world. The current Black Overlord has obviously been occupied by something, completely losing its original form, even twisting its basic framework and increasing in size several times. This kind of black overlord may possess more powerful strength, but it has completely lost its balance and become an uncontrollable monster. Arth. It hurts, it hurts. Morris shook his head. The cockpit of the original black overlord had been completely dissolved by the black venom, and now he was immersed in this black poison pool, which was like a deep-sea high-pressure environment. As for his lower body, who knows where it went a long time ago. Huge tentacles grew out from under him and behind him, then they became a part of the black overlord and connected to the twisted and deformed black overlord. The two black electric long guns were also entangled by countless black tentacles and forcefully spliced together in the middle, forming an ultra-heavy long spear with piercing tips on both ends. Chapter 1231. The Black Overlord at this moment almost lost its outline of magic armor, transforming into a real black monster. This is the essence of the abyss, where things like science are non-existent for even the most mysterious and indescribable creatures. With the support of the ancient powers of the old gods, thousands of kilometers away, the Black Overlord, strengthened by the primeval sea power of this world, has already transformed into a war weapon of the abyss. In a sense, this is also a rematch between Seer and Leviathan. The Black Overlord, infused with the power of the Leviathan's remains, as the container of the faceless god, Seer. A giant in silver. The Overlord in black. Before Babylon Sky Tower, two massive creatures of similar size were destined to engage in a battle of life and death. Oh. I feel it, this is power, the great Ada has bestowed upon me the power. The human body is simply not worthy of possessing such power. Morris, who gradually merged with the Black Overlord, felt an unprecedented satisfaction. The ambition as a human knight, the domination of the Black Overlord, compared to the current satisfaction, is simply not worth mentioning. This is the true pleasure of glimpsing the world's truth, the path of corrupting the world's rules with the power of the abyss. I, Morris, will kill all the disobedient today. Everyone, kneel before me. Morris, holding an 18-meter-long, connected abyss spear after the mutation, exudes a murderous aura and seems to be ready to launch a massive slaughter at any moment. All the pain, the madness of losing what represents dignity, now turns into combat power. This is also one of the characteristics of the ancient gods of the abyss. The more insane they become, the more powerful they are, even causing all the sentient beings around them to lose their sanity. Retreat. The representatives of different countries who were gathered in front of Babylon Sky Tower, led by Meros, Heidi, and Saramanda from the Leviathan faction, started to quickly retreat from the battlefield. On the other hand, from several tens of kilometers away, the followers of the Black God Order drove out of the underground caves in black magic armor that was not even recorded in the Leviathan Empire's records. Their only command, given by Morris, was to defeat all the representatives of the continents and make the new Leviathan Empire the ruler of the land. Ludwig XII looked at the crazed Morris, particles of darkness swirling in his eyes, and finally left the battlefield together with Imperial Sage Poincare. This stage was prepared for two monsters. In Ludwig XII's eyes, whether it was the guardian deity of the Seer Kingdom or the Abyss Apostle of the Black God Order, they were all the same kind of beings. They had no understanding of the bigger picture, blindly acting without thought due to their powerful force. How foolish they were. However, as he looked at the Black Overlord under Morris' control, a subtle desire arose in Ludwig XII's heart. Can he fully harness such power? Want power? Whispered the abyss in Ludwig XII's ear. Ludwig XII hesitated for a moment, then firmly shook his head. This power that makes you lose control. I don't want it. What he needed was a power he could control, not like Morris, who seemed to have become a complete monster, lost in power. This was the difference in education and perspective. Both were hosts of the abyss power, but Morris had given up everything early on, becoming obsessed with the immense power of the abyss. On the other hand, Ludwig XII had witnessed the terrifying aspects of the abyss power, acknowledging its strength, yet still able to keep his sanity. They both felt jealousy and dissatisfaction in many ways, but their choices were completely different. Morris completely embraced the side of the abyss, willingly becoming its disciple, fulfilling his mission at any cost. Ludwig XII, on the other hand, cautiously collaborated with the Black God Order, allowing them to spread while observing the effects caused by the power of the abyss. This is the difference between Maurice, the second son of a noble family, and the imperial emperor. Even though Ludwig XII has seen the terrifying power of the abyss, he still won't bet everything on the Black God Order. The power of the Black God Order must be used and the scientific path cannot be abandoned. We must do both, and not put all our eggs in one basket. Looking at it from a different perspective, when there is no choice but to use the power of the abyss, Ludwig XII will be able to gain more than Maurice. Oh, so what you want is more? Yes, this kind of power is not suitable for me. I am not a berserker. Ludwig XII disdainfully looked at the black monster standing over 40 meters tall. To become like this and still feel good about himself, Maurice is too young. Then, your wish will be granted. The whisper of the abyss temporarily disappeared from Ludwig XII's ears, as the stage where the fate of the world is decided has already begun. It seems that the Black God Order is not living up to its potential. Allowing the Black God Order to grow is a risky move, and Ludwig XII is the one playing the chess game. Now, the game has reached a critical point of intense battle. If we consider the Leviathan Empire as the black side, the underground cemetery, representing the white side, has already been dealt a fatal blow by the Black God Order and is on the brink of collapse. Kill you to worship the great Ada. In this world no one can stop Ada's will. Maurice raised his black electric spear and targeted the heart of the faceless god. Once this spear strikes, you will die. Compared to the previous strike, Maurice felt more confident this time, because this was vengeance from the abyss. The immense aura of the abyss covered the heavily assembled spear, and a black magic eye symbol appeared on the head of the faceless god. Previously, this symbol appeared on Elphilis's head, declaring her death. Now, the same thing was about to happen again, and this time, the power behind the charged attack was 10 times stronger than before. On the ground, Yunshi's heart was pounding fiercely. Parfu, are you ready? Merely returning a spear would not quell the burning desire to kill in Yunshi's heart at this moment. Crush, tear apart, and even eat up. Since the beginning of the star trial, Yunshi has never had such a clear desire to destroy and kill such a target. Parfu. Just now, Parfu's body was burned and shocked by the black electric spear and was expelled from the body of the faceless god. All the newly added Parfu bodies have finished replenishing and have developed a higher resistance to high temperatures and electric currents due to their extremely cruel treatment. Chapter 1232 Sizzle. The Parfu system, which expelled the damaged bodies, quickly entered an explosive state. A large amount of white steam emerged behind the faceless god, symbolizing that the Parfu system had activated the highest level of overload state. The Black Tyrant began to charge. On the 18-meter-long black electric spear, the twisted lump of flesh kept wriggling, releasing an ominous aura like a nightmare. Maurice felt better than ever before after abandoning his human form and realizing how useful and convenient his tentacles were. All the neural connections inside the Black King were replaced by the split tentacles, allowing him to truly control and manipulate the Black King as he pleased. Boom! 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 Running at high speed, the sprint caused a series of sonic booms. Several 7-meter-tall magic armors from the Leviathan World Group were crushed by the shockwaves created by the Black King's running, scattering steel fragments like pieces of paper in a storm. Weak, too weak. He used to think that magic armors were the strongest power in the world, but now he finds it laughable. Now, with a single shot, he can shatter 3 titled machines, and this power continues to grow endlessly. At this moment, he wasn't alone in battle. He had the great Adas will supporting him from behind. Look, the powerful figure, the Black King who rules over all. The front end of the black electric spear, shaped like an armor-piercing cone, touched something that was blocking it, and then pierced through like popping a balloon. Bang! A massive explosion caused Maurice to momentarily stop his charge. In that instant, the faceless god invaded the Black King's embrace. Yunshi held onto the Black King's shoulder with one hand, while the other hand grasped the black electric spear, which was releasing electric currents and high temperatures. Empty-handed combat was a lesson that the Empire's knights would never learn in their lifetime. The magic-armored knights who were invincible on the battlefield would learn tactics of tearing apart their enemies with steam spears like a torrential rain from a distance, or the art of killing opponents up close with heavy weapons. Fighting empty-handed at close range was meaningless for magic armor. The key was to make good use of the powerful armament system of the magic armor. However, Yunshi was not a knight of magic armor, and the faceless god was not a weapon of scientific nature. The Parfu system connects Yunshi's fighting awareness with the body of the faceless god. For Yunshi, the faceless god is a part of himself. Whatever the faceless god can do, Yunshi can naturally do. As the divine vessel, the faceless god exists and will not break no matter how Yunshi uses it. In fact, Yunshi cannot unleash the true power of the faceless god. However, even if Yunshi cannot fully unleash the true form of the divine vessel and only uses basic punches and kicks, it is enough for him. Because he is a disciple of the battle god Junra, personally taught by Cassina the battle god and bestowed with the true teachings of the seed of the battle god. Yunshi doesn't know how to use a long spear or aim for headshots from a distance. But in one-on-one close combat, even against opponents several times his size, Yunshi is undoubtedly the king of kings. Faced with the head-on charge of the Black Overlord, Yunshi simply throws a punch with explosive force, grasps the momentary pause of the opponent, and charges into their embrace. Then, he performs the crushing technique of the soft body. Crack! The Black Tyrant's joints made a sound as they couldn't bear the weight anymore. Morris screamed in agony as he saw his arm bend at a 90-degree angle. Before he could react, the Black Tyrant was tripped by Yunshi and fell to the ground. Even the sharpest weapon is useless if it can't hit its target. The Black Electric Lance, fueled by the power of the Abyss, hadn't had a chance to unleash its true strength before Yunshi disarmed Morris. Morris had never seen this unarmed blade technique in his entire life. As an Imperial Knight, he had never been taught the skill of disarming opponents with heavy weapons. It simply didn't exist in his education in Sia's world. Snap! Yunshi continued exerting force, breaking the Black Tyrant's joints. In one fluid motion, he tore off the connected portion of the arm. Just like that, one of the Black Tyrant's hands was seemingly effortlessly torn off by Yunshi. It didn't appear any more challenging than ripping off a doll's arm. The severed part revealed a thick, corrosive black blood that instantly turned the ground beneath it into a pool of poison. It was proof of Morris's dark transformation. Morris, who had lost a significant amount of blood, felt dizzy for a moment but quickly reacted. "Grant me strength, Ada." He easily took off one of his hands with a single movement, showing the incredible resilience possessed by the Abyss monsters. His remaining hand suddenly swelled to 3 times its original size and unleashed a devastating punch against Yunshi. This punch lacked any technique, and even the angle of the strike was incorrect. It can be said that it defies all scientific principles. Just as Yunshi was about to disrupt the balance of the Black Overlord, he suddenly leaped back and gave up on the pursuit. The dark heavy blow grazed the side of the faceless god, causing a shockwave that completely shattered the mountains several kilometers away, leaving a deep crevice on the ground. In a state of extreme madness, Morris, who knew no pain, zealously charged towards Yunshi once again, shouting, "Long live Ada." On his right hand, which had swollen 3 times its size, black patterns started spreading, giving the unreleased punch a deeply suppressed aura. In terms of combat skills, Morris was clearly not a match for Yunshi. However, with the power of the Abyss coursing through him, he felt no fear and disregarded his own injuries. The hand that Yunshi dislodged was left untouched, and the terrifyingly powerful Black Electric Lance lay abandoned on the ground, completely forgotten by its owner. Charge! 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 With the great power of Ada, any opponent is insignificant. Just crush them all. In the face of absolute power, all techniques are a joke. This is Morris's confidence. Parfu, get ready. Yunshi struck a pose, with his left hand forward, slightly crouched legs, and his right hand parallel to his shoulder. Die! 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 With an inhuman roar, Morris released his strongest attack ever since he was born. Chapter 1233. In the midst of Morris's furious roar, his right hand, now 3 times larger, unleashed a devastating punch. It wasn't an attack that could be made by the human anatomical structure. It was a lethal strike that resulted from compressing and contorting the muscles inside the arm, much like a spring being pushed to its limits and then released. This technique was simply impossible for a human body to achieve. Only abyssal apostles like Morris, who had obtained the power of the ancient gods, could execute such a move. The people in this world had never witnessed such a technique before and had no experience in dealing with this kind of attack. Unfortunately for Morris, his opponent was Yun Shi, the direct disciple of the battle god genre. The Battle Gods Grand Martial Arts Tournament was not exclusive to humans, it was a battlefield where participants of all races could sign up to showcase their fighting prowess. The lava giant, whose entire body was made of rocks. The mist monster that was nearly immune to physical attacks. The shape-shifting creature that could replicate the appearance and aura of its opponent. No one knows exactly how many races there are in the endless gods domain, and some of these races have extraordinary talents that can be described as unbelievable. However, even so, Cassina the Battle God is still the undefeated champion of the Battle Gods Grand Martial Arts Tournament, the only one who possesses the permanent title of Battle God Legend. She has never been defeated in the Battle Gods Grand Martial Arts Tournament, even when facing fantasy species beloved by the heavens and earth, she can still win. The battle god genre was created by this legendary battle god, a genre that can win against any race. Yes, even against monsters from the abyss. Morris's right-hand muscles began to deform, and when he gathered strength, Yun Shi relied on his excellent battle intuition to determine the trajectory of this attack. Of course, this also is related to Morris's inability to grasp this move and instinctively unleash it. The essence of this punch is not just a fist, but the phenomenon of thousands of tentacles' elastic potential energy being concentrated and then released. Its power is even stronger than the previous electric long spear shot, several times stronger than the maximum power that the faceless Parfu system can unleash at this moment. However, even the strongest power is useless for someone as foolish as Morris. With one punch strong enough to shatter Babylon's Sky Tower, first it collided with the left hand of the faceless god, then the body of the faceless god sank, and the enormous black fist was raised as the feet stomped. Get ready. Borrowing the opponent's power and using it to deflect their own attack, sending them flying. The mysteries of the soft body are fully displayed at this moment. Completely losing control, Morris was thrown into the sky by the power of his own punch. Switch. Solid body, run. In an instant, the earth shrank beneath Yun Shi's feet. Thunder, sprint. The faceless god in a state of full power might not be as strong as the Black Emperor possessed by the power of the abyss. However, the difference in combat skills between the two sides is as vast as the distance between a planet and the Black Emperor and the faceless god's power. In this world, the terrifying genre of the battle god has never appeared before, sweeping through the battle god's grand martial arts tournament. From the moment Morris mindlessly charged at Yun Shi, a tragic defeat was almost certain. All the Parfu system subbodies suddenly swelled up, almost sacrificing their own lives to provide Yun Shi with a surge of power for his next move. In just under 2 seconds, the faceless god caught up with the Black Emperor, who had lost balance after being thrown, then grabbed the Black Emperor's head and crazily sprinted while dragging the Black Emperor's body. The Black Emperor, over 40 meters tall, was like a broken doll being dragged on the ground by the thundering faceless god, moving towards the depths of the mountains. Boom, boom, boom. One after another, the mountains were hit and shattered by 2 enormous creatures. They crashed into a deep canyon, dozens of kilometers away from the Babylon Sky Tower. Yun Shi smashed his worn-out body against a towering cliff, reaching hundreds of meters in height. Fart. A large amount of black liquid sprayed out from the shell of the black behemoth. Morris, feeling dizzy and disoriented, gasped heavily, experiencing for the first time the agonizing screams coming from his own body. It's okay, these injuries are completely insignificant. He will immediately get up and launch a counterattack against his opponent, who has expended a great deal of energy. He has the unlimited regenerative power of his passive ability. He is sure to turn the tables. The question is, will Yun Shi give him this opportunity? The answer is no. One hand pressed down on the head of the Black King, while the other hand of the faceless god was raised high. Gather strength, and done. The next second, Morris saw countless huge fists, like a meteor shower, pounding down on the body of the Black King. Boom, 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 boom. Like the sound of a huge hammer hitting an unfinished weapon. It sounded like a meteor shower falling from the sky, shattering the earth. With every punch containing Yunshi's boundless anger, it completely vented on the body of the Black King, each punch causing blood and flesh to fly, making the internal parts of the Black King scatter. Hit, 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 hit. They will not stop until they smash this black unidentified object to pieces and completely eliminate anything that harmed Elphilis. From the beginning of the Star Trial, Yunshi felt extremely murderous as he faced his 4 ex-girlfriends who were now chasing him. With every punch thrown, Yunshi's body unleashed explosive power. Without magic or fancy techniques, he used sheer force to brutally attack his enemies. He used the most aggressive methods to instill maximum terror and death in his enemies. Boom, boom, boom. The continuous explosions were just appetizers. Every 100 punches, he would unleash a killer blow that could pierce through the defense of the Black King. And every 1,000 punches, an even stronger bone-shattering punch would appear. With the wildest speed, strength, and explosive force, Hard Fist crushed and pierced through enemies. That was the style. Attack, attack, attack again. I just want to kill you. Yunshi told Morris very clearly, you will only die. Uff. Morris screamed in agony, desperately seeking help from his master. Ada, 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 oh great power, save your disciple. Pain. It hurts so much. Bang. Yunshi's fist smashed through the final breastplate of the Black King, grabbing the mutated Black King's spine and forcefully ripping it out from its body. Morris' struggling body was completely exposed in broad daylight. Chapter 1234. Even after being separated from the Black King, this black spine didn't lose its vitality. It trembled and contorted in the hands of the faceless god, resembling a creepy black centipede. In the middle of the spine, there is a flesh-like tissue similar to a brain. This tissue has replaced the original cockpit of the Black King, covering the skeleton with massive black tendrils, transforming the scientific superweapon into its current twisted monster form. Morris' true form is located inside this brain-like tissue, clearly visible to Yunshi. Did this guy sneak up on Elphilis? Yunshi looked at the half-human, half-monster creature struggling inside the pool of poison. Its facial features were no longer human-like, and its opened mouth resembled a split flower petal. Apart from the upper body, which still vaguely resembled a human shape, the lower half of this monster had completely transformed into tentacles resembling deep-sea acid jelly squid. Yunshi had forcefully torn off a large portion of them, but the severed parts were rapidly regenerating, indicating that it wouldn't take long to repair itself. This strong life force doesn't look human at all, but it is very similar to some special abyssal races in the memories of the seed of the battle god. Despite having its spine and core taken out, the tattered black tyrant is still full of vitality. Even when stepped on by Yunshi, it continues to struggle with all its might, although this instinctive struggle is ineffective. Ada, Ada, Ada. Inside the poison pool, Morris opens his mouth like a flower and emits a hysterical shout, calling out to the abyssal will he believes in. Ada, what is that? Yunshi lifts up the still struggling, contorted black spine and grabs onto the suspicious entity with a humanoid body. Smack, smack, smack. The tail end of the spine keeps hitting the arm of the faceless god, still making its final desperate struggle. Let go of me. You are looking for a way to die. Sensing something, Morris's voice became panicked. Impossible. How could Morris, on the stage he prepared for himself, be defeated and concluded in such a completely overwhelming way? He is the great apostle of the abyss, the creator of the Black God Order, destined to pull this world into the depths of the abyss. For the first time, he regretted it, jumping to the forefront so quickly, facing this terrifying silver-white giant in front of him. From the information he had collected about this silver-white giant, the abyssal blackened black overlord should have a power that surpasses this suspected divine-era weapon. He only guessed half right. The fully abyssal blackened black overlord indeed had a power surpassing the silver-white giant. At least in terms of pure destructive force, even Yunshi couldn't meet the black overlord's super overlord fist. The problem is, The gap in skill level between the two sides is too big. As the ruler of the Black Overlord, Morris was just an elite who was a normal magic-armored knight not long ago. In this world, his combat skill level is already top-notch, being praised as a super expert of the Leviathan Empire Magic Armor Division. In a one-on-one battle, even facing a knight with the title of titled machine-level hero-ranked, Morris, who has obtained the power of the Abyss, still has overwhelming advantages. However, his opponent is Yun Shi, who has experienced the nightmare difficulty Starchild trials. In the Water God's world, he has directly faced Shea Longness the Sky Sword. In the Dragon world, he has challenged Four Zaka and the primitive dragon Hua Hua. In the White Lotus Secret Treasure world, he even fought against the star-hunting dragon Mu Mu Narable possessed by the supreme dragon god Asher's will. Having experienced battles at the legend-ranked level like this, Yunshi's combat awareness has long reached a level that not even Cassina the battle god could estimate. Combining strength and flexibility is not a challenge for him. Even unarmed, he can defeat a dozen Morris-like Abyss apostles. Yun Shi, who has always regarded his genius childhood sweetheart as his goal, has long surpassed the limits of the human race by countless times. He has entered even the Endless God's domain and is part of the highest level group among those monstrous races. For these races, simply growing up naturally would make them hero-ranked creatures, and the strongest individuals among them would deliberately keep surpassing their racial limits before reaching hero-ranked, preparing for the future legend-ranked. At this moment, Yun Shi is also walking on this path, the path of surpassing with Hua Hua as his goal. Chasing after a monster-like childhood friend, Yun Shi also transformed into a monster, a presence that made people doubt their own eyes and trampled on common sense. Morris, whose vision was limited to Sia's world, could not even imagine the level of the top monsters in Endless God's domain. Let go of you. Yun Shi's gaze became extremely cold and merciless. Letting the one who attacked Elphilis go, causing Elphilis such pain? The pain you made Elphilis feel, I will return it 100-fold, 1,000-fold. No matter who you are, where you come from, there is only one outcome. Feel the agony. The right hand of the faceless god gradually exerted force, compressing the brain-like flesh and blood tissue, giving a sensation similar to squeezing a plastic bubble. This brain-like flesh and blood tissue is even tougher than it looks. If not for the power borrowed from the faceless god, perhaps Yun Shi's own physical strength alone would not be enough to kill it. However, it's okay this way. Yun Shi wants to make sure that the monster who attacked Elphilis feels what real fear is. I curse you. I curse you, monster. You will have a terrible fate. The great Ada will avenge me. One day, I will bring back Sue from the depth. As if the end of the world had come, Morris unleashed a crazy curse, and his body turned a disgusting blackish-purple color. Crack. Like a popped plastic bubble, the flesh that enveloped Morris's true form was brutally squeezed by the faceless god. A lot of black poison dripped onto the silver-white hand of the faceless god, releasing a strong smell. Inside Morris, it turned into a pile of gooey liquid. Morris, an ambitious apostle of the Abyss, created the Black God Order, an organization that believed in the old gods in this world. But he was crushed like an ant by the faceless god. Oh. Weak and powerless. Being small really can't be changed. A disappointed whisper came from an unknown source, echoing through the decaying flesh and making Yun Shi feel a chill down his spine. Chapter 1235 Different, completely different. Compared to the half-humanoid monster who called himself Morris just now, this voice didn't feel like it belonged to the same world as Yun Shi. That deep voice spread out as though it came directly from the deepest part of the world, giving Yun Shi the illusion that the owner of the voice was speaking to him from millions of miles away. No, perhaps even farther, Yun Shi couldn't hear which direction the voice came from at all. Do you want power? A certain ominous atmosphere began to envelop Yun Shi, and he felt a sense of familiarity with this feeling. In primitive Dragon Hua Hua's world, he had heard similar whispers more than once, tempting him into an indescribable realm. No need. Yun Shi cleanly rejected the temptation from the abyss because he knew full well that his most fearsome enemies resided in that abyss, and there were more than one. The two masters of the dark abyss, the chaotic deity Naya and the god of impossibility, void, endiness, were both his ex-girlfriends who had cursed him without hesitation. Regarding them, Yunshi knew almost nothing except that they were the rulers of the Seven Towers and there was no more information available. Compared to Supreme Dragon God Asher, the ruler of the Northern God's Domain, and Ionia, the ruler of the multicolored realms of the Western God's Domain, the creators of the two dark factions, they were undeniably the most dangerous beings in the entire Endless God's Domain. So it's impossible to go to the abyss, not in this lifetime. Even if you run away, you have to choose a remote God's domain without your ex-girlfriend. The language of the ancient gods started to tempt one of Yunshi's wills into self-doubt. Is it possible that this entry of the language of the ancient gods has become ineffective? Clearly, for all living beings in the Endless God's Domain, this phrase "do you want power" is almost a universal key, the best and most useful keyword. Ambitious like Morris, after coming into contact with knowledge and power beyond human capabilities, he instantly fell into corruption. With great talent, like Ludwig XII, he only barely suppressed his impulses, preparing to exchange for even more powerful abilities. For ordinary people, and even most hero-ranked individuals, it's almost impossible to resist the temptation of the abyss. It is an extraordinary power that can't be refused, both physically and mentally. The old gods are well aware that if they don't play by the rules, their child won't be able to catch the wolf. The power they bring forth is all genuine and valuable. Just like what Morris desires, he gained an incredibly powerful sense of spiritual influence, to the point where the power of the abyss even eroded his unforgettable Black King, giving birth to the Black God Order. His body broke through the limits between mortals and hero-ranked with unstoppable force. His mental powers were even more than 10 times stronger than a normal hero-ranked, which is why he had such powerful speaking and guiding abilities. It can be said that everything Morris desired was given to him by the abyss, which is why he was so devoted and fanatically believed in the will of the abyss. Do you want to become a deity? This time, Ada of the Abyssal will change to key phrase. Even for the ancient gods in the abyss who occupy a position as ruler, this promise is rarely made. Deities, the legend-ranked, are also very special beings, one of the most perfect beings known to humans, eternal and immortal. As long as someone believes, they will not perish. They feed on faith, and by constantly spreading their own faith, they can infinitely increase their power. They are miracles with unlimited possibilities. After the Twilight War of the gods, most of the ancient innate deities fell, and the new generations of deities took over the legacy of the previous generation, raising their own divine thrones in the starry sky. Ascend into divinity. This is the easiest method for humanity's wisdom to reach the legend-ranked. Even if someone is unknown at first, as long as they obtain the inheritance of the gods, they can create their own legend. With a large number of followers, they can bridge the gap between the hero-ranked and the legend-ranked, like reaching the sky in one step. However, the inheritance of the gods, which are the fragments left behind by the departed gods, is very limited. Only by collecting more than 50% of the fragments from the fallen gods can one inherit the god's name and plan their path to godhood. In a way, these new generation gods have actually merged with the ancient gods. The ancient gods, who have passed away, are once again present in the world in this way, while the sentient beings who cannot enter the legend ranked achieve eternity through this kind of exchange-like method. As for whether the deceased gods can truly return to the mortal realm again, that is something that will not be known until many ages later. At least for now, the new generation gods in the Endless God's Domain believe that this is their era. The problem is that it is extremely difficult to find the fragments of the departed gods. These fragments, which scattered after the gods' downfall, could exist in any form within the starry sky. Some fragments have turned into a single blade of grass on the green prairie. Other fragments have integrated into god weapons, which are already related to legends of the gods. And some fragments have even become poems in the Great Library. The gods themselves are legends at the top of miracles, immortal and indestructible. Even the fragments after their demise have incredible powers and can even develop their own consciousness over a long period of time. The process of collecting over 50% of the lost gods' fragments often accompanies bloody battles and wars that last for hundreds or even thousands of years. Many kings claim to be the rightful heirs of this god, the true successors. Throughout history, wars have been waged over the fragments of the gods, destroying more than one god's domain. Providing fragments of the gods is also one of the biggest chips that the will of the abyss can offer. Even the abyss sovereign loves this treasure. No. Yunshi shook his head without hesitation. He wished there were more involvement with gods and such. Now he carries the curse, blessing, of the two most powerful creator gods of the endless gods domain on his back. One of the curses comes from the supreme dragon god Asher, and he took the initiative to suppress 3 of his former girlfriends. Truly amazing. Deep within the abyss, appreciates Yunshi's unwavering determination. Being able to resist the temptation of becoming a deity, without any doubt or wavering, represents immense strength and unwavering self-will. This kind of will would not choose a shortcut that requires the inheritance of a deity. Because such a perfect soul can create miracles that go beyond that. Not a deity, but possessing a higher legendary status than a deity, just like Battle God in the Battle Gods Grand Martial Arts Tournament. For the Abyss, this is an incredibly rare talent. So let me devour you, Ada said. Chapter 1236 Hum. Strange tremors spread from under the feet of the faceless god, gradually turning into concentric black ripples, giving Yunshi an extremely terrifying tremor. The scary feeling was like something about to come out from under him and eat everything. This was not Yunshi's imagination, it was a real happening phenomenon. The place where the remains of the Black Emperor were melting after losing its original owner Morris, the black liquid was reassembling and something was about to come out from inside. The spine that Yunshi had held in his hand was also gradually falling, dropping into the black liquid. Retreat. Without hesitation, Yunshi stepped back, instinctively sensing that whatever was being conceived at that moment was nothing compared to the previous Morris. Compared to the strange creature currently being conceived in the black liquid, the previous Morris could be called a harmless little animal. Just a second after Yunshi jumped out, a large amount of black liquid condensed into a black sphere with a diameter of about 20 meters. The surface of the sphere had layers of blue-black patterns, resembling a gigantic egg. Buzz. 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 The blue-black sphere was rotating rapidly, releasing concentric black ripples that corroded and distorted everything around. If Yunshi jumps out 1 second later, he will be drawn into this strange and twisted black space, and the consequences would be unimaginable. In the haze, the blue-black ball opened a huge eye in the center and stared motionlessly at Yunshi. I see you. Thousands of kilometers away, above the Primeval Sea that began to churn, the abyssal will that came to this world took on the form of an old god named Ada, and slowly spoke with an evil eye. Locking onto Yunshi's current appearance, the abyssal will began to search for the most suitable stance for battling in this world. Don't think that all the old gods of the abyss have the same ugly appearance as Morris. The old gods who bear the name of God, before falling completely into the abyss, some of them were truly worshipped as real gods. Born from within the abyss, or later tempted and altered by the power of the abyss, Ada is of the latter kind and is a powerful abyssal incarnation that has reached the level of a sovereign. The 2 masters of the dark abyss god's domain, Naya, the embodiment of chaos, and Nameless, the embodiment of nothingness, symbolize the 2 extremes of the endless abyss. However, beyond these extremes, there are also many abyss sovereigns who bear the name of old gods. Ada is one of the most powerful abyss sovereigns among Naya's side, having invaded dozens of worlds and captured an incalculable number of intelligent beings. Even for someone as knowledgeable as Ada, encounters with targets who can resist even the temptation of becoming deities are extremely rare. This determined goal is actually favored by the abyss because it means that if the other party falls, the power it brings to the abyss is stronger than those who easily betray themselves. Even ancient gods like Ada would benefit greatly from the will of the abyss if such a determined and infinitely potential intelligent being were to fall. Therefore, tempting and devouring such goals is a common hobby among the mighty abyss sovereigns. For this reason, they have always been ruthless. Giant strength aesthetics. After observing the faceless god controlled by Yunshi, Ada began to choose the templates she had used in the past when she descended into the mortal world, and modified them appropriately. How long has it been since I last used a human-like form? The blue-black sphere spun rapidly, giving birth to a body suitable for the world's rules and capable of containing the power of the gods, for the ancient gods of old. Yunshi's intuition was correct. This is indeed the most dangerous object in this world, known as the egg of the ancient god, a strange and evil existence. The canopy formed by Leviathan before its death is extremely powerful. Neither the Ten Leaves Alliance nor the ancient gods of the abyss can directly project their power. At this moment, Ada is using the accumulated power of faith in this world's abyssal clan over millions of years. Even so, these powers, even when combined with the power of the sleeping Leviathan's remains, cannot create a true deity. They can only give birth to something similar to a young evil god. With some characteristics of the old gods, but their powers cannot surpass the limits of a hero-ranked creature. This is the form of the young evil god currently being conceived. However, even if they cannot control the true power of the legend-ranked, the old gods from the abyss have ways to cheat. Since this world, because of the existence of Seer and Leviathan, cannot be invaded by the power of the legend-ranked. So, let's think the other way around. This world itself is a part of the legend-ranked. As long as we use the legendary power that exists in this world itself. Leviathan, the sky beast, has the potential for that. Awaken, Su, the remains known as Leviathan, in a completely new form in this era. A lot of blood sprayed from the purplish black sphere as a slender arm broke through the shell of the black sphere. Of course, this slender arm is relative to the faceless god. It measures over 10 meters long as it breaks through the shell of the purplish black sphere with a diameter of 20 meters. On this arm, there are red armor plates wrapped around. It is not armor crafted by any craftsman, but a defense system that this creature naturally possesses. Chirp! More blood spurted out from the purple-black sphere, and the outline of another arm and upper body appeared in front of Yunshi. It was a giant resembling the shadow of a faceless god, wrapped in deep red armor, with a W pattern on its chest. It was much larger than the faceless god. 4 red horns stood upright on top of the red giant's head, and the Black King's electric spear, originally belonging to the Black King, was dyed red and hung behind the giant. Unlike the faceless god whose face is covered, the facial features of the red giant are very distinct. It has a charming and beautiful face, exuding incredible coldness and dignity. More blood spread out, completely absorbing the already scarce purple-black sphere, revealing the legs and whole body of the red giant. It is about 30 meters tall, appearing slightly smaller than the faceless god, which proves the huge difference in size between the two. However, on the feet of the red giant are a pair of non-scientific red high-heeled shoes that sparkle like crystal shoes at a ball. Crash! The part of the black tyrant's spine, which originally belonged to it, transformed into a transparent long whip in the hand of the red giant, releasing an eerie aura. Chapter 1237 Puppet. When Yunshi saw this red giant for the first time, he had a familiar feeling. This giant, covered in red armor, looks just like the faceless god, as if they were made from the same mold. However, due to the lack of certain things, the other party added different ingredients and eventually evolved into this form. That face, dangerous yet seductive, just being stared at made Yunshi's heart race, and even the Parfu system showed signs of overheating. The only flaw is that this red giant lacks something crucial, so for now, it's just a big doll. That gorgeous face lacks the liveliness that a living being should have, just like when Yunshi first saw the faceless god in its sealed state. Link. Start. What Yunshi was concerned about, the missing component of the red giant, was quickly replenished by the will of the ancient god from the abyss. Only by using the remains of Leviathan and mixing them with the style of the observed faceless god can we create a puppet, but it can never defeat the real faceless god. Only by infusing the will from the abyss into this template can we give this inorganic puppet its own soul, thus creating the world's most powerful weapon. The abyss gazes back, as the gazer gazes into the abyss. A black eye slowly opens on the forehead of the red giant, staring at the faceless god in front. The moment this eye appears, the red giant, which was just an elaborate puppet, instantly gains life. Those deep red eyes begin to shine with intelligent light, showing a hint of curiosity and a sense of nostalgia for something familiar in this world. As soon as the black eye appears, numerous black patterns spread throughout the body of the red giant, causing it to show a painful expression. Like something pure and innocent just born, it starts to be tainted by all the evil in this world. While losing its innocent soul, it also gains great and destructive power. Something pure destined to be a divine vessel. Using black threads to weave the destiny and rules of this evil godling, Ada's will completely descends upon this body. A large amount of blood evaporates as the black patterns spread all over the body of the red giant. The armor that was tightly wrapped around it starts to fall off, revealing the white skin underneath. Gulp. Yunshi couldn't help but swallow his saliva, feeling a mysterious and irresistible temptation that was even more powerful than the whispers of ancient gods. It transcended races and language barriers. Phew. Ha. Ha. Ah. The newly born red giant made a breathy sound that made people blush and their hearts race. It sobbed with a voice so tender it made people's ears turn red. Is this a mental attack? Yunshi had to admit that it was much more effective than the seemingly extremely evil whispers of the ancient gods, at least for him. Hiss. The black patterns continued to expand, tearing off half of the red giant's chest armor, revealing a large white semicircle. Yunshi was completely confused about the evolution direction of this enemy. Could it be possible to enhance combat effectiveness by voluntarily lowering one's armor? In this world, how could there be a reason that fighting power becomes stronger after clothes are torn? After tearing off half of the chest armor, the black patterns continued downward, tearing apart the skirt armor at the waist, and then shredding the leg armor together, until tearing off 2/3 of the armor of the red giant's body. As a result, most of the chest, entire back, arms, and thighs of the red giant were completely without armor, weakening its defense by half. With so much armor gone, now even a slight breath from the red giant would cause the towering mountain on its chest to shake, creating a strong sense of oppression for Yunshi. That kind of threatening feeling from the weapon is impossible to understand unless experiencing it firsthand. Alright, optimization and modification completed. After modifying this world's perfect template, which is the conclusion drawn from observing the faceless god, according to her own habits, Ada expressed great satisfaction with this work. Only such a charming and flexible posture is suitable to become a vessel for the old gods and unleash 100% of their power. Unfortunately, this body is destined to be a temporary vessel, as it was catalyzed temporarily using the remains of Leviathan, so its usage time is very limited. This is an inevitable cost. After all, this is not the abyss, and every ounce of power must be carefully used, wasting it is shameful. The red spine whip made a crisp and pleasant sound. The red giant raised its head, and in its 3 eyes, there was the figure of Yunshi. Here it comes. Since a while ago, Yunshi has been on high alert. When black patterns appeared on the body of the red giant, he knew that this would be the most difficult battle he has faced since coming to this world. This opponent named Ada gave him a sense of overwhelming strength. Buzz. The sharp spine whip made a chilling vibration and then swung out. The shadows of the whip transformed into large circles, instantly locking onto all the directions that Yunshi could dodge. So fast. Moreover, what a skilled technique. How many times have you used this whip? Yunshi attempted to use the technique of soft body, trying to unload the layers of whip circles coming towards him. However, this time Yunshi made a mistake. The tricks hidden in these whip circles were far beyond his understanding of soft body. They were truly amazing and almost magical. The soft body techniques displayed by Yunshi were completely negated by these whip circles. After being reversed 7 times in a row, he was suppressed by the opponent. His right foot was entangled by the end of the whip. In the next second, Yunshi spun around, and the entire faceless god was rolled up by this magical whip. After flipping dozens of times in the air, it was heavily thrown to the ground. The dominating spine whip displayed techniques that were out of reach for Yunshi. It turned into a binding rope along the body of the faceless god, tying it into a turtle shell-like posture. Do you realize the difference in strength? The red giant stepped on Yunshi's right hand with high heels and looked down on him, experiencing the bitter taste of defeat. Black. No, it seems. Yunshi, who was dizzy for a moment, gritted his teeth and instantly changed his posture. He burst out with invincible power, forcefully breaking free from the strange whip's confinement. With a counterattack similar to a rabbit kicking its legs, he kicked the opponent's high heels. Chapter 1238. Like a thunderclap from a flatland, Yunshi's counterattack erupted like a volcano, kicking the red giant's body out hundreds of meters. But Yunshi knew that this kick didn't have any effect, it was completely insignificant. His strength, he didn't feel any power in his kick. Instead of saying that he kicked the enemy out, it's better to say that the enemy used his kick's force to retreat. Like a dancer dancing on the edge of a knife, those red high heels have an incredible agility, gently flipping in the air and landing on the ground. The spine whip that was shaken away by the faceless god is floating again beside the red giant. Amazing, after Yunshi obtained the seed of the battle god and started practicing the battle god genre, apart from his unbeatable childhood friend Hua Hua, this is the first time he encountered an opponent who completely suppressed him in fighting skills. Is there really such exceptional whip skills in this world? The attack from the multiple whip hoops just now directly broke through Soft Body's defense. Even though its force output may not be higher than the Black Overlord just now, and maybe even a bit lower, the Black Overlord was just an tireless and crazy beast, while the Red Giant is the strongest whip user that Yunshi has encountered. Slim body. Red high-heeled shoes that seem inconvenient to walk in. A hovering and trembling whip-like spine. In Yunshi's eyes, the red giant in front of him posed a threat that was more than 10 times greater than the previous black tyrant. Whoosh! The whip-like spine raised again. Is it the same move again? Yunshi struck a defensive posture, ready to counter the previous method of the whip's loop. Smack! The whip-like spine transformed into multiple layers of loops, sweeping towards Yunshi layer by layer. Ha! The faceless god's body emitted a large amount of white steam, sacrificing a part of Parfu's overheated body, and unleashed a multi-layered spiral punch that was definitely not inferior to the opponent. The 8-layered hoop was broken by Yunshi from the center, but just as Yunshi's strength reached its peak, the hoop suddenly scattered, causing Yunshi's burst of power to lose its target. The flexible long whip that scattered the hoop swayed like a graceful dragon, thrown by the red giant in a wonderful trajectory, and fiercely lashed onto Yunshi's back. With a loud crack sound, the body of the faceless god rolled over, completely losing balance. Oh no! Yunshi quickly adjusted his posture, supporting himself with his hands, attempting to counterattack. More hoops fell from the sky, enveloping the faceless god's entire body, followed by a sudden burst of sound that spread out. Boom! The shockwave produced by the multiple layers of hoops exploding with force slammed the faceless god into the ground, revealing Ada's masterful control of the long whip. The ground was blasted open, forming a colossal hole nearly 100 meters wide. The silver-white body of the faceless god collapsed in the center of the hole, gasping heavily. Swoosh! Whoosh! The long whip of the spine zigzagged in the sky, as if it had a mind of its own and locked onto Yunshi. Cough! Yunshi pressed his mouth within the core of the faceless god. The whip strike exploded, piercing through the body of the faceless god and miraculously injuring Yunshi himself. As a result, the Parfu subbody located inside the faceless god also suffered approximately 10% damage. It's too powerful, even the solid body can't withstand it. Yunshi wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and gazed at the intertwining whips above his head. Softness overcomes softness. Softness overcomes hardness. In this lifetime, he had never encountered such formidable whip skills. Even in the Battle Gods Grand Martial Arts Tournament, it would be considered a technique close to godlike. There are no flaws in this. The opponent is using the long whip as if it were a natural part of their body. The faceless god without weapons suffered a great loss against the long whip. To win, they had to get close and use their special skill. Yunshi and the faceless god stood up together, looking at the slender figure 100 meters away. The Black Overlord could only unleash 50% of their fighting power, despite using 300% of their strength. The Red Giant only needed to use 50% of their strength to unleash 200% of their fighting power. The difference between them is really huge. Despite being at a disadvantage in terms of distance and control, Yunshi's thinking became clearer. This is the advantage given to him by the hero-ranked baker profession. Although the baker profession doesn't have much combat power, it has unique abilities in energy usage that other professions can't imagine. That's why he could have a bread storage even at the 4th rank, which is an unreasonable special ability. Charge. The skill level is unbeatable. But this time the advantage is on my side. This is what Yunshi realized after observing the opponent's tactics. In terms of skills, the Red Giant's whip techniques are far superior to Yunshi's. It has reached a level close to godlike. It doesn't seem like a technique that humans can practice. To defeat such an opponent, you have to be tough and have the realization to break common sense. In other words, you have to be tough and take action, regardless of who the opponent is. You must have the courage to charge forward. Tactics and such, they don't exist. In this desperate situation, only by showing the determination to risk everything, can we find a glimmer of hope. Whoosh! The soft whip ring rippled again, blocking in front of Yunshi. The red high heels stepped back gracefully and systematically. This is the skill of using a whip as a weapon, control. The whip, a soft weapon, doesn't rely on brute force to defeat opponents. Control, whip strikes, restraint, tormenting opponents both mentally and physically, causing them to lose their will to fight and give up. This is the preferred method for whip users. It is because of this preference that they choose such a unique weapon. For whip users, every swing of the whip is a way to question their opponents, wearing down their willpower until they finally succeed. As an ancient god of the abyss, Ada's skill in wielding the whip is truly legendary. Even if it's just a novice practitioner, many techniques that require powerful abyssal forces cannot be executed. Ada's whip mastery is unmatched by Yunshi, who is still a beginner in the battle god genre. The whip's flexible circle is first compressed along Yunshi's charge, and then springs back like a coil, reaching its limit before suddenly rebounding. Use brute force. Charge ahead with brute strength. If winning were that simple, berserkers wouldn't have died. Yunshi felt dizzy and his body spun in the air. His fierce sprint was interrupted, and he awkwardly fell to the ground after spinning several times. The body of the faceless god knelt down and made a deafening crash as it hit the ground. In the sky, layers of whip circles formed again. Chapter 1239 Smack, 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 smack. Invisible whip shadows appeared one after another around Yunshi, occasionally lashing at the body of the faceless god. The red giant wearing high heels elegantly walked and launched a massive attack on Yunshi. Unlike Morris, who wasted energy, every step and whip strike of the red giant was filled with beauty, while never wasting even a tiny bit of strength. The expanding whip circles, not only pleasing to the eye, also restrained and suppressed Yunshi's field. Within this field, constructed by spine whips, the red giant had complete control, and despite faceless god having the advantage in power, it was completely suppressed and unable to lift its head. The continuous whipping didn't have any real power. It was Ada's bad habit, which showed that the fight was completely controlled by the old gods. The seemingly useless strikes were actually an accumulation process, a complete psychological and physical suppression. No hero-ranked person could withstand such mental torture. Their willpower would be completely destroyed. It was only a matter of time. When the time comes, it will be Ada's opportunity to completely defeat Yunshi, leaving nothing behind. No way. Yunshi shook his head. For the first time, in a state of full explosion, he was hit so hard that he became dizzy. Even his sense of direction was about to be distorted. After awakening the essence of the battle god genre, the fusion of strength and gentleness, Yunshi was confident that he had made a qualitative leap in his combat skills. Although he couldn't compare to his invincible childhood friend, in real battles, he could still hold his own against formidable opponents like Desert Dragon Zaka in its dragon form. His battles against the Black Iron Giant, Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, and Rift Space Dragon also proved this point, giving him some confidence in himself. Now his confidence is about to disappear. At least this time his opponent, named Ada, the Red Giant, is far superior in skill than him. After being whipped 3 times in a row, Yunshi had to admit that the technique of his opponent wielding the whip was beyond his imagination. Whether it was the initial entanglement, the following strikes, or the just now flings, they were all superb techniques that Yunshi had never encountered before, and he couldn't defeat them whether it was a solid or soft body. Completely controlled, unable to think of a way to break through, thoroughly at a significant disadvantage. Moreover, this is probably not even the full strength of the opponent, as the spear that almost killed Elphilis has not been used yet. Yunshi doesn't believe that this red giant will be like Morris just now, unable to unleash even the basic power of this terrifying spear. Desperate, perhaps it is the description of the current situation. However, Yunshi will not give up. Elphilis for you. I will win. Regardless of the cost. The faceless god rose again, even though whipped until his skin was covered in scars. Yunshi never gave up. It had nothing to do with the trial of the stars, it was Yunshi's own will. Those who hurt Elphilis will pay in blood. Morris was crushed, but the true mastermind was still there, right in front of him. Parfu. 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 Parfu, located in the gemstone on Yunshi's chest, nervously informed him that the entire Parfu system had lost 1/3 of its power. Ada's 3 lashes were not ineffective. Whether it was when she tied him with the turtle shell or when she directly whipped him, or even the recent attack, they all had a terrifying force that penetrated the faceless god's defense and injured Yunshi. Yunshi's own willpower can resist the temptation of all abyss whispers, but his body hasn't reached that level yet. The consecutive lashings indeed hurt Yunshi and caused him injuries. On his snowy white skin quietly appeared black whip marks, one on his chest, one on his back, and one on his shoulder. These were Ada's achievements in battle. 1/3 of the Parfu system died, even though they sent out the remains of the deceased Parfu entity. The actions of the faceless god were still affected. Since the appearance of the red giant, Yunshi hadn't even touched its edges. The difference in combat power between the two sides was so vast that it couldn't be called a battle anymore, but rather a completely one-sided interrogation. The spine that was almost completely snapped in Yunshi's hand had now become his nightmare. It's okay. This slight pain compared to the terror of death is not worth mentioning at all. Yunshi comforted the restless Parfu inside the dragon jewel. In the dark forest, he had faced the extreme cruelty multiplied several times when confronting the almost invincible green-skinned hippo. Was squashed to death. Was sat on and crushed by a big bottom. Was smashed by the huge paw of a hippopotamus. Was directly eaten by the big mouth of the hippopotamus. There were too many ways to die, which made Yunshi feel a certain kind of fate-like, irresistible urge to kill the green-skinned hippo. At the same time, it granted him an extraordinary strong and resilient will that no other disciple of the battle god genre had ever possessed. Only by facing the terrifying aspects of death could he overcome his own fear. Never give up until the very end. Will never sacrifice easily before the last moment. The difference in fighting ability between him and the red giant is far from the difficulty he faced when he was just a second-rate ordinary man using a novice iron sword to challenge the green-skinned hippo. Even in terms of strength alone, he, the faceless god, may surpass the other. Is the difference in battle experience and skills? In terms of battle experience, there may be no solution for now, but as for skills. Yunshi felt a deep breath as the Parfu subbodies inside the faceless god multiplied again. Yes. Even though he cannot temporarily use the unique seed system of the Starchild and the Starwings, the permanent god weapon, because of the incorporation of about 1/5 of the star-hunting dragon Mew Mew Narabel's flesh, he still has his own trump card. Divine Sword Skill, this is Yunshi's strongest power apart from the Starwings, which may bring great disaster. Even though he currently doesn't have a sword in his hand, he cannot display the flying sky-flying sword. However, another Divine Sword Skill doesn't require a sword in hand and can be used. This Divine Sword Skill doesn't require a god weapon, but instead uses one's own wisdom and imagination to create a sword that opens the door to victory. It exists and yet doesn't exist. It feels close, yet seems far away. It is there, but not there. It has driven countless scholars and even gods crazy, suspecting it as the mastermind behind this world. Graceful and mysterious. It brings luck to oneself and misfortune to opponents. This is the cute and mysterious little creature that Yunshi wants to summon. Meow. Come here, cat. Open for me, the door to infinite dimensions. Yunhai's quadrant sword. Chapter 1240 Meow. Cute. Mysterious. Elegant. The cat, who made countless legend-ranked individuals and deities question their existence, stepped out from an unknown timeline and lightly placed its paw on Yunshi's shoulder. Activate Yun Hai's four-region sword. Unlike the sky-flying sword, which soars through the skies with a dazzling light, Yun Hai's four-region sword is a weapon infused with infinite wisdom. It is the only sword technique in the divine sword skill that doesn't require any specific god weapon. To use Yun Hai's quadrant sword, you need creativity and imagination. It is based on countless calculations, resulting in a miracle in the end. It's not like an infinite repetition of adding 1 plus 1. It is essentially a guess at what wonderful result can be obtained by analyzing the addition of 1 and 1. Yun Hai, the swordmaster, used millions of grass spirits, big grass spirits, and little bees as test subjects, and step by step, he discovered and achieved the divine sword. It made countless deities doubt if their brains were not enough, and it raised the question that shook their worldview, the cat that is the key to unlocking Yun Hai's quadrant sword. Yun Shi doesn't have the innate mathematical talent of Yun Hai, the swordmaster, nor can he deduce the complex formulas that now make countless mathematicians jump and argue endlessly. However, he really likes cats. The mysterious cat, who seems to exist and not exist at the same time, also seems to really like Yun Shi. With the elegant meow sound, Yun Shi's mind was filled with countless exploding stars, and a mix of data and inspiration, weaving together the elements needed to create a miracle. In the previous time, Yun Shi used the power of Yun Hai's quadrant sword to activate the sky-flying sword, but this is not the only use of Yun Hai's quadrant sword. Now, without the star wings, he cannot provide the elements needed to support the sky-flying sword, so this time, activating Yun Hai's quadrant sword is seeking a different solution. Ignoring all processes, no matter how unreasonable or strange, as long as the possibility exists, Yun Hai's quadrant sword will show the path to Yun Shi. What Yun Shi needs to do is to seize that possibility and create a miracle. No matter how unbelievably bizarre the method may be, it leaves people stunned. As long as the box is not opened, no one knows the state of the cat inside the box, meaning there are infinite possibilities. Once the box is opened, the existence of the cat will be determined, alive or dead. This question can be applied to any world or any problem. As long as the result is not known yet, it is unpredictable. In the future, there are endless possibilities. Yun Hai's quadrant sword aims to capture the future that will defeat Ada and bring victory to Yun Shi. Swing the sword and show Yun Shi that future. This is the mystery of Yun Hai's quadrant sword. Of course, this future must exist, just like when Yun Shi was blocked by his 4 ex-girlfriends. No matter how many times Yun Hai's quadrant sword is used, it cannot find a winning future. It's absolutely useless, there's no way around it. The higher the achievement in practicing Yun Hai's quadrant sword, the more futures can be cut. Essentially, Yun Hai's quadrant sword is a divine sword skill like this. It doesn't directly increase your fighting power, but it gives you the possibility to create miracles. This sword represents wisdom and mystery. It may look scientific, but it's actually theological because sometimes the user doesn't even know what kind of future they will cut. Before striking, Yun Shi himself can't imagine what kind of box he will open and what kind of results he will observe. The only certainty is that Yun Hai's quadrant sword will give him an answer, and no matter what that answer is, Yun Shi will execute it. Because there is no other way to win. Countless bright lights exploded in Yun Shi's mind, creating different choices and different results. Weaving endless possibilities, opening the door to unlimited wisdom, and then observing the outcome. Yun Shi's question was, facing Ada, who had much greater strength, was there a way to win? The answer given by Yun Hai's quadrant sword was yes, and not just one. Good. Yun Shi's eyes brightened. Indeed, there is always a way, he can still win. So, for the next question, how to win? Yun Hai's quadrant sword began weaving the choices of destiny, quickly presenting 3 possibilities to Yun Shi. The first choice, the other person is a power from the abyss. If you offer Parfu as a sacrifice to a being in the abyss, you will immediately gain the same power from the abyss. Advantage, it's simple and direct, so it will definitely summon a terrifying creature from the abyss. Disadvantage, also simple and direct, if you gaze into the abyss will also gaze back at you. Naya is looking for you. Are you ready to face Naya's surprising gaze? No, not ready, not ready. Yun Shi quickly rejected this option. Although it seems very feasible, Having an ex-girlfriend like Naya is 100 times more troublesome than the current Ada. It's a real nightmare. The second choice, offer the bloodline of your star-hunting dragon Mew Mew Narable, summon the power of the dragon god, and effortlessly destroy a mere Ada. Advantage: the required offering has been prepared long ago. Even in Sia's world, this sacrifice is guaranteed to be 100% successful. Disadvantage: Dragon God Asher is currently searching for information about her youngest daughter. If the sacrifice is successful, you will receive Asher's reward. Give up, give up. Yunshi crossed his hands. Yunhai's quadrant sword is really heartless, completely disregarding the well-being of its user. The third option, sacrifice. Wait, who is it this time, Ionia, or someone nameless? Yunshi was getting desperate. Why is it always about sacrifice? Is he involved with some cult? Yunhai's quadrant sword. Is there a way to win without sacrificing or involving my 4 ex-girlfriends? Block all options related to ex-girlfriends. Yunshi didn't want to make things more complicated. Meow. The cat representing the mysterious Yunhai's quadrant sword sharpened its claws and left a small scratch on Yunshi's ear. So, this is the choice. Among all the items you possess, there is one that can inflict fatal damage on the Abyss incarnate standing before you. The Abyss, which originally had no weaknesses, lost its invincible nature when it descended into the body of the Red Giant, and began to be confined by this body. With a container, you can fully use your own power in accordance with the rules of this world, but you will also be limited by the container. Among the things that Yunshi had, there happened to be one item that could have a huge effect on this Red Giant and even any other supergiant creatures. Oh, is it that thing? The image of that item appeared in Yunshi's mind. So, it can be used like this too. No, this is how it was supposed to be used, but he never realized it, and it was so frightening. Chapter 1241. In this world, all phenomena are the results of exchanges. Every choice leads to countless branches and gives birth to numerous possibilities. These possibilities weave together and ultimately form the known rules, phenomena, ordinary people, heroes, and the power pursued by legends. It is the result of gradually understanding these rules. Yunhai's quadrant sword, a mysterious sword symbolizing infinite wisdom, helped Yunshi calculate the only winning method among all the possibilities he possessed. This method doesn't involve his 4 ex-girlfriends or any sacrifices. Even though Yunshi was almost stunned when he saw this method, he had to admit that this was indeed the only move that could win in the current situation. The only way to fight against the mysterious is with the same kind of mystery. The only way to counter legends is with the same kind of legend. Ada represents the power that comes from the abyss, but at this moment, Yunshi must use the power of the gods. There is only one chance, and the time to make a move is also only once. If you lose, there will be no future. So, winning is good. This time, Yunshi is confident. It's possible to win. Parfu, you will work hard. After knowing the winning method, countless elements are intertwined in Yunshi's pupils. Using Yunhai's quadrant sword has a price. It is just a key to open the door to miracles. To push open that door and take out the treasure, it is Yunshi himself. Just like using Yunhai's quadrant sword to calculate the secret of the sky-flying sword, it is because Yunshi's physical strength has reached the minimum requirement to use the sky-flying sword that the correct answer can be obtained. From basic swordsmanship to the accompanying breathing techniques and mastery of the flying swallow sword, Yunshi completed these prerequisites in order to unlock the sky-flying sword with Yunhai's quadrant sword. Mortals cannot see the door no matter what, they don't even have the qualification to approach it. Miracles represent extremely slim possibilities, even theoretically non-existent. Yunhai's quadrant sword provides the answer to create that miracle. I see. In the state activated by Yunhai's quadrant sword, Ada's originally flawless whip circle is no longer unbeatable in Yunshi's eyes. The faceless god has the power to break through this whip circle. The previous defeat was only because he was completely defeated by Ada in terms of skills. Obviously, Ada's ability to manipulate the whip is far beyond Yunshi's reach, almost godlike. From the trajectory of Ada's whip, Yunshi can even infer that there are more complex and varied moves that haven't been used yet. This whip technique is a direct path to the legend ranked of combat skills, and Ada has long mastered it to the highest level, the long whip almost being a part of Ada's body. Only when Yun Hai's quadrant sword is activated, can Yun Shi find the slightest flaw in this whip technique. To be precise, it's not the state of this whip technique, but when Ada uses the body of the red giant, it is limited by the rules of this world and cannot perform the changes in whip art beyond the legend ranked. If the power limit of this world is lifted, what awaits Yun Shi is thousands, tens of thousands of whip circles that can even bind the gods, and techniques of lashing. Hiss. A massive white steam shoots out from the body of the faceless god, and the decorative metal wings tremble violently. That is a sign that the faceless god is about to enter full acceleration mode. For Yun Shi, the wings of the faceless god are a weapon that he hasn't mastered for long. Since the original method of use no longer exists, Yun Shi has never had any experience using this weapon in actual combat. Now is the time to bring out this hidden card as well. Flying is actually useless. Yun Shi doesn't have much experience in fighting in the sky, and he can't use the sky flying sword now. So, the only function of these wings is 1. Accelerate. With a speed and explosiveness that exceeded the opponent's imagination, he obtained an opportunity. Only once, Yun Hai's quadrant sword deduced a chance to win. Ada looked at the wobbling faceless god with some confusion, who looked like he would collapse soon. Why does he still have such a strong will? Her whip strikes should have the additional effect of weakening the will to resist of all intelligent beings. Clearly, the opponent's true form within this silver giant has been marked by her, and the power of the abyss continuously erodes his body. All the subsequent continuous lashings are only to accelerate this process. When the power of the abyss completely takes over the entire body of the silver giant, it will be the time for her to reap the fruits of victory and devour this target with a strong will. Well then, let's put in a bit more effort. Taste, it's painful. The red whip rings spread out layer by layer, constantly traversing and wandering around the faceless god. No matter what the faceless god wants to do, it needs to break through this absolute defense first. Ada's whip technique is both offensive and defensive, with no weaknesses. This is the technique she created for herself after countless years of honing in the abyss. It's time, Parfu. Yun Shi knew that the next move would impose a huge burden on all the Parfu bodies, and even cause a large portion of them to die completely. Even with Elphilis's absolute zero freezing ice block as a cooling system, if they were to fight against the Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, it is feared that all the Parfu bodies would be burned to death due to overheating. Parfu. 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 With simple thinking, the Parfu bodies were born with the mission to obey all of Yun Shi's commands, giving him a reassuring response of "it's okay." As long as it's Yun Shi's command, even if it means all of Parfu's bodies dying, they would not hesitate, because that's their reason for existing. Without Yun Shi, they wouldn't be born. For the bodies split by Parfu, Yun Shi is the only, supreme and special existence. TSK. 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 Yun Shi started to charge, every step causing a large number of Parfu bodies inside his body to die. The almost burning high temperature gave the faceless god an unprecedented explosive power. Layer after layer of whip circles stood in front of Yun Shi. Ada walked with elegant and magnificent footsteps, perfectly maintaining the distance between him and Yun Shi. "You don't stand a chance." Ada's deep red pupils looked at Yun Shi with pitiful eyes, then licked his lips and showed an enchanting smile. "No, there is. The victorious door has already opened." Chapter 1242 Boom. The first punch, with the roaring sound of metal wings behind it, forcefully crashed onto the stacked 9 layers of whip circles. The soft whip circles absorbed the power of the faceless god's punch, causing the spine to deform, and then it voluntarily contracted back. Yun Shi had just experienced this scene as well. It seemed like the whip circles were scattered, but in reality, it was not like that at all. Contracting back was to counterattack better. The force unleashed by the faceless god's punch determined the intensity of the counterattack that would be received later. However, Yun Shi continued to charge forward and throw a punch. The second punch. The faceless god left a charred mark on the ground from its sprint, and the second layer of defense woven by its spine whip was forcefully broken. 2 layers of the 9-layer whip circle lost their effectiveness. The red giant continued to retreat methodically, while not forgetting to swing its spine whip. Everything is within grasp. No matter how fierce and powerful you charge, it only makes the counterattack of the whip circle more powerful. Using your own strength to counterattack yourself is the advanced mastery of the whip's technique. Yunshi knew he would face the strongest counterattack. The more strength he exerted now, the more powerful the whip circle's rebound would be later. The Parfu clones let out cries of despair, losing their connections one after another, while new Parfu clones continued to be born, striving to fill the void left by the previous generation's passing. Green powder sprayed out from the faceless god's nozzle along with white steam, which represented the radiant lives of the Parfu clones. Punch, punch, punch again. By exerting its power to the limit, the explosive sound phenomenon behind the faceless god constantly bursts forth, and each punch heavily strikes the seemingly endless rotating whip circle. The third level, the fourth level, the fifth level. Just like a complete replay of the previous scene, the faceless god in the assault revealed its terrifying power and easily shattered more than 5 layers of whip circles. It's almost done. Should the power have decreased somewhat? Ada wielded a long spine whip, preparing to perform the skill of shock, returning all of Yunshi's punch force in one breath. The whip ring, absorbing enough impact, showed signs of slight heat, enough to return Yunshi's attacks with double the power. Just like a tightly compressed spring, the greater the pressure it receives, the greater the force it rebounds with. And, fourth layer, Yunshi clenched his teeth in the face of the faceless god, and the dragon's gem on his chest began to glow. Parfu, go all out. This was a command rarely given by Yunshi to Parfu, indicating that Parfu needed to make more sacrifices, even risking harm to its own body. Even with Parfu's special slime constitution, once its life force was completely burned, it would not recover in just 1 or 2 days. When defeating the Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, only Parfu's subbody was burning, and Yunshi didn't use Parfu's original life force. Now, he had to gamble everything. Parfu. The green main body of Parfu emerged from Yunshi's chest, and its body began to split and send more new subbodies into the body of the faceless god. Parfu's system entered the highest level of overload mode. Behind the faceless god, the feathers of the metallic wings shimmered one by one. Those were the Parfu drones sacrificing their lives to generate greater propulsion. Then, Yunshi stepped forward. With the tremendous momentum brought by the wings of the faceless god, Yunshi struck the final 4 layers of defense on the Ada barrier with a weapon more fearsome than a fist and at a faster speed. Do you still have more strength? So, do you want to endure a rebound of 400%? The silver, heavy foot struck the fully charged Ada barrier 3 times, effortlessly breaking through 3 layers of its final defense. However, this was also the limit. Even with such an unexpected burst of power, the last layer of the Ada barrier remained unyielding, protecting the red giant. Whether through punches or kicks, it was absolutely impossible to break through this final barrier. Furthermore, the red-hot whips along the spine had absorbed enough strength to launch a counterattack of 400%. The next second waiting for the faceless god would be a shockwave strong enough to send him flying. And, the final layer. The Parfu system in Yunshi's limbs was almost completely destroyed due to overload, so he could only use the metal wings on his back to propel himself and let out a soul-shaking roar, fiercely biting towards the whip circle. Zing! Ada's astonished eyes witnessed the breakthrough of the last layer of defense, as the faceless god rushed to a distance just 1 step away from the red giant, although it only had a head. However, what does that matter? Ada looked at the faceless god, who had seemingly exerted all its strength to charge forward, with confusion. What can you do in 1 second? The power accumulated in the whip circle didn't disappear, and in the next second, a 400% counterattack would completely blast the opponent away. So, why would you charge through all defense circles with just a head? Could it be that you want to bite me? Awu. Yunshi really did it, controlling the head of the faceless god, with all nerves connected to it. Hands, feet, spine, and all other parts lost connection. Inside, 99% of the Parfu subbodies died, leaving only the intact Parfu system in the head. Opportunity, only once. The chance to attack the almost unbeatable enemy in front of him probably lasted less than a second. For this less than a second opportunity, over 90% of the faceless god's Pafu clones inside died due to overheating, and there will definitely be no next chance. Go. The forehead of the faceless god crashed into the forehead of the red giant, and then they bit, or you could say kissed, the lips of the red giant. Use the designated special item, Hydera the water god's sake cup. The fragrant liquid from the lips passed through the lips of the faceless god and into the lips of the red giant. This is, by the time Ada realized that something seemed off, everything had already ended. The red whip hoop, counterattack shock. More than 400% of Yunshi's attack power was reflected onto the faceless god. A massive shockwave erupted, causing the faceless god to feel as if it had collided with a giant spring, transforming its entire body into a silver line that crashed into the distant mountains. Unnatural red flushes appeared on the cheeks of the red giant, followed by half kneeling on the ground, its entire body swaying unsteadily. The poison wine of the divine era began to take effect. This was Yunshi's ultimate strategy, the Hydera's cup assault. Chapter 1243 Cough Cough. Deep within the mountains, in a massive canyon that could be hundreds of kilometers away from the central area, a silver hand weakly pushed aside the debris covering it, revealing the outline of the faceless god. The 400% rebound attack was equivalent to the faceless god's full-force continuous strikes quadrupled and reflected back, sending Yunshi flying hundreds of kilometers away. On this journey, many big trees, mountainsides, and even whole mountains were shattered. Looking down from the earth, the ground looked like it had a huge crack. At the end of the crack, the faceless god was buried under countless big rocks. Even if any hero-like creature were to take this hit, they would instantly turn to ashes. Luckily, the faceless god was not a hero-like creation but a miracle beyond that, a mysterious puppet made by the puppet maker for their dear friend, creator god Swordseer. Even with a counterattack 4 times as strong, it only sent the faceless god flying hundreds of kilometers away and made Yunshi inside dizzy for a long time. Fused with the body of star-hunting dragon Mew Mew Narable, it was a curse, a restraint, the supreme dragon god's shackles imposed on Starchild, but in a way, it also protected Yunshi. At least, when he still had a human body, he absolutely couldn't withstand this kind of impact. It's good to still be alive. Yunshi shook his head. The moment he opened his eyes, he thought he had already reached heaven. Before him, there were countless silver-white radiants, and in the haze, he seemed to see the beautiful outline of someone with wings. Oh no, I'm having hallucinations after being hit. This is really terrible. If we weren't inside the faceless god, that blow would have turned him to dust. Pafu, who lost about a third of its body, happily jumped in front of Yunshi and shouted with joy. You worked hard. Yunshi caressed the emerald slime, which despite losing a third of its body, still bounced around energetically. This incredible strength to survive is truly admirable, and it feels as good as touching something familiar and wonderful. Can you still move? Yunshi felt almost completely disconnected from the faceless god, with only one hand, his head, and a bit of instinct left. Pafu, who contributed to Yunshi's full strength attack by sacrificing a third of its body, immediately started splitting, giving birth to a new generation of Pafu offspring at the cost of its own body. Compared to the Pafu bodies that sacrificed during the battle just now, the new Pafu bodies that have experienced tremendous impact have become even more resistant to high temperatures and impact, which is the talent of the slime clan. No matter how harsh the environment, whether it's high temperatures, extreme cold, or even the dark abyss, the slimes can always evolve corresponding physiques and persist against all odds. No one knows how many subspecies the slime clan has. Although it's almost impossible for this clan to give birth to intelligence, in terms of their talent for reproduction and division, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say they're the best in the entire Endless Gods domain. Pafu. Soon, a somewhat struggling new Pafu system was split apart, with a completion rate of only about 50% of its peak period. But this was already the desperate accomplishment of the Pafu. Great, still able to fight. Losing half of the Pafu system, Yunshi's manipulation ability over the faceless god weakened significantly. He couldn't unleash the explosive onslaught like before, and he couldn't use the magnificence of Skydance, the battle god Junra's divine technique. But as long as he could move, that was good enough. Until the very end, never give up hope. Until the very end, never speak lightly of sacrifice. It is with this belief that miracles can be created. Boom! The silver fist broke through the stones and soil that fell on the faceless god, and Yunshi controlled the seemingly unsteady faceless god to stand up from the depths of the canyon. The metallic feathers spread out, shaking off all dirt and debris from the faceless god, revealing its gentle face and perfect body. Truly a god's vessel, the legendary miracle of the field, untouched by any dust, forever pure. With hero-ranked abilities, it seems that even a fraction of the divine vessel's power cannot be unleashed. It represents the future of this world. With somewhat unsteady steps, Yunshi begins to return to the battlefield. Along the way, he realizes how terrifying the previous recoil was. The gigantic body of the faceless god was almost like a bullet being shot out. In the middle of the mountains, a huge crack was blasted out, about hundreds of meters wide and over 100 kilometers long. The landscape of the entire mountain range was partially changed. The closer to the central battlefield, the more you could feel how terrifying the red giant's whip skills were in that split second. However, the one who won was the faceless god, Yunshi. In the center of the battlefield, amidst complete chaos or drunkenness, stood the red figure, the best proof. The world is spinning around. The transparent red high heels walked in a messy manner, no longer having the elegance and composure from before. Who am I? Where did I come from? Where is this? Yunshi had seen all sorts of drunken people. Some would cry loudly, some would laugh, and others would start babbling nonsense immediately. It seemed that this terrifying being from the abyss belonged to the worst kind of alcoholic drinks. Ahahaha! I remember now. I am the world's first queen. All kneel and accept my punishment. The queen's will is absolute. The queen is always the most beautiful woman in the world. As Ada collapsed, the will from the abyss seemed to twist as well. Sing praises. Sing praises. Pay tribute to the great Red Heart Queen. A small group of soldiers with teapot heads appeared out of nowhere, blowing trumpets, playing music, and loudly announcing Ada's identity. The queen's arrival in this world is your good fortune. Quickly kneel before Her Majesty the Queen. If the queen gets angry, the world will be doomed. Robin, where is Robin? Who killed Robin, the sparrow? Then the dragonfly can also come. Call the red dragonfly over. The busy teacup soldiers began to set up the stage for the dance party, being serious and meticulous, looking nothing like a game. The queen's ball is about to begin. Begin. Red dragonflies danced in the battlefield, singing loudly, accompanied by the performance of the teacup band, creating a strange atmosphere that made Yunshi feel uneasy. Chapter 1244. Originally, it was thought that victory in battle was determined by pouring Hydera's poison wine into the enemy's body, but now it seems that was too naive. The method derived from Yunhai's quadrant sword is just the key to victory. It doesn't mean that pouring divine era's fine wine guarantees a win. As for why it is poured with the lips, Yunshi also wanted to use his hands, but in the end, the only thing that could break through the defense of the Ada's ninefold whip ring was the head of the faceless god. What could he do? Gulp. After spinning many times, the giant in red lifted up their skirt, and their armor transformed into a decoration that resembled a ballroom gown. The queen is hosting a ball. The ball is about to begin. Where is the prince? Quickly, find the prince. A white horse, a white horse. The teacup soldiers, who seemed to have appeared out of nowhere, hastily set up the long tables and chairs needed for the ball while continuously summoning new servants. Soon enough, chefs wearing tall, white hats, with round figures and beards, arrived. They brought in a large quantity of ingredients and started making desserts and fruit platters. Present the queen with a salute of cannons. A procession carrying giant cannons over 10 meters tall appeared. To the giant in red, these cannons seemed like small toys. But from a human's perspective, they were undeniably large-scale weapons of destruction. Boom, boom, boom. More numerous and complex magical fireworks appeared in the sky than the underground cemetery collection. The unidentified procession displayed their firing skills to the fullest, and each cannonball hit with incredible precision. 5 rings. 6-pointed star. 12 zodiac signs. The unimaginable art of fireworks, performed to perfection by these non-human procession soldiers. It felt as if they had practiced millions of times. The white horse is here. Huff drip, drip. A huge unicorn cried out, its face full of tears and blood as it was pulled out from a door by thousands of teacup soldiers. No, I'm not a horse, I'm a bright unicorn that can only be ridden by pure and beautiful maidens. I'm not a white horse, I will never let any prince ride me. Oh my, you bunch of cursed lackeys, listen when someone speaks. The tear-stained complaint was so heart-wrenching, but unfortunately, the teacup soldiers would not listen to the protests of the white unicorn. Who is your master? I am a member of the Western Gods Domain Holy Forest Alliance, and I protest. The white unicorn struggled desperately, trying to break free from the chains that bound it, until it saw the dancing red giant. In an instant, the sacred unicorn was frozen, as if it had seen the coming of doomsday. It is Queen Ada's command that cannot be disobeyed. Disobey death. Praise the great queen, she is the forever ruler of hearts. If you don't listen, I will roast you and eat you. Many teacup soldiers skillfully put saddles on the frozen white unicorn. Oh my! What kind of place is this? Am I in a nightmare? How can I encounter the Queen of Hearts, the ruler of nightmares? The sacred unicorn cried, even among the old gods, she was one of the most terrifying. Ada, one of the most fearsome rulers under the Chaos Lord Naya, also the ruler of Nightmare World, has the innate power to travel through multiple worlds, symbolized by a heart and an evil eye. The Queen of Hearts is her title in Nightmare World. The Lord of the Evil Eye is her title in the Abyss. She is the only ruler to hold the highest titles in both the Abyss and Nightmare Worlds. These two worlds are extremely dangerous and frightening worlds. The Abyss, it contains many evil gods and indescribable creatures, often giving birth to monsters that even the gods fear. Nightmares are the hidden aspects of countless sentient beings' consciousness, as well as the graves of gods and many great beings, which don't exist in the real world. Whether it's the Abyss or the Nightmare, there is one common point. Once living creatures enter, they are basically unable to return, and even if they do come back, they are usually not the same as before. The connection point between the Abyss and the Endless Gods Domain is mainly in the Southern Gods Domain. Nightmares, on the other hand, are everywhere, an unknowable and unobservable world, with very few living beings appearing in the real world. Ada is an extremely rare king who holds both the titles of Abyss and Nightmare rulers. Legend has it that she possesses two completely different aspects because of this. In Ada's Abyss form, she takes the form of a giant evil eye. The Ada with a horrifying appearance transformed into a queen wearing a red queen's dress. If encountering a Ada in an abyssal state, without the legend ranked, it is undoubtedly doomed, as the evil-eyed sovereign is one of the most terrifying killers and destroyers in the Abyss. The Ada with a horrifying appearance is just a legend. It is said that everyone who sees this appearance goes mad and becomes a part of the nightmare world. I don't want it. I am still so young and haven't met the pure flower-crowned girl I love. I am not a white horse, you have mistaken me. The teacup soldiers suddenly became quiet and stared at the struggling unicorn with cold eyes. If you're not a white horse, then you can only be eaten. A horse that is not a white horse has no value in attending the banquet. What the queen loves is a prince riding a white horse. The fairytale chefs who were making desserts also showed scary smiles. We can also make the feast with sacred unicorn's blood. The taste is really good. The sacred unicorn shed tears of blood and lowered his head sadly, raising his hooves. I am a white horse, the prince's good partner, a white horse. He seemed to have accepted his fate. So, is the prince ready? After solving the white horse's problem, the teacup soldiers all looked at Yunxi. Strange, what exactly happened? Without understanding that Ada had another side, Yunxi had a feeling that things had been developing in a completely unfamiliar direction. No one can refuse the invitation from Her Majesty the Queen. Only the most handsome prince can receive an invitation to the Queen's ball. This is the 12th masquerade ball of the Red Heart Queen, and you are the first white horse prince to be invited. The teacup soldiers politely arranged the dining table, waiting for the white horse prince to take his seat. Yunshi knew he should refuse, but he felt a strange force pulling him towards the enormous table, step by step. Let the matchmaking ball of Her Majesty the Queen begin. Chapter 1245 The Power of the Legend Rank. This time, Yunshi was certain that Ada, wearing a red dress after getting drunk, had surpassed some limit and unleashed a terrifying power beyond the hero-ranked field. The army of thousands of teacup soldiers, along with the card chef and the ceremonial squad, appeared in this world because of their power that surpassed even the hero rank. Defying logic and even distorting the rules of the world, these strange creatures appeared, not even hindered by the usual rejection that the Leviathan remains have towards legendary creatures. It's as if they passed through the doors of all worlds and suddenly came here from some unknown world. Compared to the abyssal will just now, Ada at this moment may not be attacking anymore, but it gave Yunshi an even more dangerous feeling. When Ada is drunk, she becomes even more powerful than in her normal state, which was completely unexpected for Yunshi. However, this version of Ada doesn't seem to have any intention of attacking. Since a while ago, she's been dancing and changing her posture with each dance move. Prince on a white horse, feel honored. You will be the potential suitor for Her Majesty the Queen. If you can pass Her Majesty's test, you will receive a gift of nightmares. Now, ride on your white horse and go to the side of the Queen, kiss her hand. The teacup soldiers brought the sacred unicorn with a saddle and signaled Yunshi to ride it. This incredibly large sacred unicorn seemed to be custom-made for the height of the faceless god, and it was just the right size for a stable ride. You've been caught, how unfortunate, we're in big trouble now. Compared to Yunshi, who knew nothing about the Red Heart Queen, the unicorn from the Holy Forest Alliance of the Western God's domain had a nearly lifeless expression. In this life, it had never crossed its mind that it would let a man ride on its back. The sacred unicorn tribe was loved by the gods and a natural ally to all virgins. Being ridden by a male was the most terrifying torture for the sacred unicorn tribe in this world. It instinctively created a distorted physiological resistance, making life unbearable. The problem was, this was the Red Heart Queen's ball, and even dying was not an option. The terrifying thing about Nightmare World was that no one knew where it was or how it existed. It was not like a visible or tangible abyss with accurate coordinates to enter. If the abyss represented the physical manifestation of the starry world's corruption, then nightmares were the dark embodiment of the spiritual side, corresponding to the inner world. Any creature below the legend ranked, once they entered Nightmare World, was basically doomed to death. Even the eternal and immortal gods have the possibility of falling once they get lost in Nightmare World. The special talent of the sacred unicorn is actually very good at resisting dark magic. They are born as holy creatures and are known as friends of light and purity. The problem is, the one here is the Red Heart Queen, a powerful ruler known for her nightmares and abyssal titles. Once you get caught in her nightmare ball, there's no going back in this lifetime. Even death becomes a luxury. Thinking about its upcoming tragic fate, the sacred unicorn couldn't help but feel overwhelmed with sadness, tears streaming down. At least, before it dies, let it taste the legendary pure maiden's flavor. It has just come of age and its ability to transform is still new. It hasn't truly experienced the feeling of being with a virgin. Sob, 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 it's too tragic. For a male to ride on a sacred unicorn like itself is the greatest shame for the sacred unicorn clan. It can cause various mental illnesses. In history, all the sacred unicorns who have been made to do this have lived a melancholic life and haven't been able to accept this fact until death. They, from their minds to their bodies, absolutely cannot accept a male riding on top of them. Do you know what's going on? Yunshi looked at the sacred unicorn next to him, who was tapping its hooves and had a disappointed expression on its face. It seemed like this unicorn, who suddenly appeared, knew what was happening more than him, who knew nothing about Ada. The Red Heart Queen's ball, an invitation from the Nightmare Sovereign, the sacred unicorn glanced at the red giant who was dancing gracefully while holding its skirt in one hand. Those who are invited either die or suffer from twisted minds and breakdowns. Throughout history, fewer than 5 people have safely walked out of the ball. This is Nightmare Sovereign's death ball. We will die, it's just a matter of time. Unless you have the strength of the god-slaying sky sword, It is impossible to escape from this ball. The sacred unicorn let out a mournful cry. Why did it know so clearly? Because in the history of the sacred unicorn clan, the 7th and 9th balls were recorded. In those two parties, several gods from Western God's domain were sucked in. 3 of them died on the spot, 1 went crazy after escaping, and the unfortunate unicorns that were caught were turned into a feast called Blood Feast of the Unicorns. It didn't want to die. It was still young and hadn't met the pure virgin it liked yet. Even if there was only a little hope, it wanted to stay alive. The strength of the god-slaying sky sword is needed to escape. Yunshi was startled, only then realizing how powerful his opponent in front of him was. If it wasn't for the rules of this world, and if it wasn't for the effect of Hydera's wine, even the legend-ranked might have been devoured by this abyssal ruler long ago. Yes, the Red Heart Queen's masquerade, a famous phenomenon in Nightmare World, said the sacred unicorn with a mournful face. How unlucky do you have to be chosen by this phenomenon? It has just reached adulthood, and in the past, the ones captured by the Red Heart Queen's masquerade were all experienced sacred unicorns who had fought countless battles. It is said that there was even one that was an angel's mount. It's still so young, why was it suddenly chosen? Prince, ride your white horse and invite the queen. Only the true Prince Charming will earn the queen's approval. Quick, ride the white horse. The teacup soldiers crowded around the sacred unicorn, urging the hesitant pair to hurry and set off. Wah! I'm going to be stained. The sacred unicorn sobbed while reluctantly half-kneeling, ready for Yunshi to mount. Faced with the unstoppable nightmare sovereign, it really had no choice. I'm not really a Prince Charming. Yunshi shook his head but still climbed on. Oh! The sacred unicorn wore an expression of disbelief as Yunshi mounted. Chapter 1246. Living in the ancient forest of Western God's domain, the sacred unicorn possessed a unique and exceptional racial talent. They can easily tell if a woman is pure, and they only favor pure and beautiful young girls. Boys, those smelly creatures, all go away. Don't even get close to the sacred unicorn, as it will cause uncomfortable physical symptoms within 1 meter. That innate feeling of disgust, dizziness, and even foaming at the mouth, is a proof of the sacred unicorn's purity and glory. Helplessly, they had to let the faceless god ride on the back of the sacred unicorn, prepared to suppress their feeling of nausea. But, no. There is no smelly smell, no disgust, no dizziness. Not only that, but also a sense of lightness, as if freely releasing oneself amidst the mountains and rivers, with a joyful feeling of running at high speed. It is a cherished memory engraved in their genetic heritage, a dreamlike realm described countless times in books. Compared to what the book says, the real experience is much more exciting and gives an incredible feeling of joy. Ah, this. Could it be? The sacred unicorn quietly raises its hooves, with a blissful expression on its face. It won't be wrong. This is the holy and pure aura of a young girl, but not just any girl, it's like the aura of a divine being, untouched by any dirt, desired by all sacred unicorns. A virgin goddess. The ultimate dream of all sacred unicorns. Did it hit the jackpot? Being ridden by a virgin goddess is a lifelong dream for countless sacred unicorns. Even though the goddess doesn't really need a mount like those, she could have much better options like dragons, and more dragons. The position of the sacred unicorns living in the ancient forest is determined by the girls they have carried. It's an eternal tradition of the pure and sacred unicorn clan. The lowest class of sacred unicorns is the group of unicorns who have recently become adults and have no record of carrying anyone. The sacred unicorn of the common class is a member that has carried humans or other intelligent beings. They are often cute village girls, kind noble daughters, or excellent female knights, and so on. The sacred unicorn of the middle class began to have records of carrying higher races, such as the rarely seen fairies of the Western God's domain, or princesses, or unmarried queens of a country. The sacred unicorn of the higher rank definitely has a history of carrying great heroes, such as a holy maiden who saved a nation in a crisis, or an apostle representing the will of the gods, dragons, angels. This is almost the pinnacle that the sacred unicorn family has achieved in history. The highest-ranking sacred unicorn has appeared less than 10 times in the entire history of sacred unicorns. They are the lucky ones who were chosen as temporary mounts by gods or other equally high-ranking great beings. Since these beings themselves are legends, the sacred unicorns they have ridden on also have some legendary status. For the sacred unicorn family, which has never produced a unicorn of the legend ranked in history, this is the pinnacle. Quite frankly, having such a record of carrying is the supreme glory for any sacred unicorn, and may even be the key to becoming the clan leader. In the history of the sacred unicorn family, those predecessors who were ridden by gods were all honored with statues shaped by the family and recorded in the clan's history. I have no regrets in my life. Feeling the presence of the young goddess on her back, the newly adult sacred unicorn burst into tears. Her once extremely despondent eyes instantly lit up, and she proudly lifted her head high. Even if I am chosen as a sacrifice, even if you want to kill me and eat me, I am not afraid anymore. I am a white horse, a white horse. The overly excited sacred unicorn seems to have accepted its fate of being eaten and bravely embraced this tragic destiny. The Feast of the Unicorns, it is a famous dish on the terrifying Red Heart Queen's masquerade table. It's not time to give up hope yet. Yunshi comforted the suddenly extremely excited sacred unicorn and shifted his gaze to Ada, who was spinning and dancing. Tell me more about the Red Heart Queen. Yes. The sacred unicorn cried and slowed down its pace while sharing all the information it knew about the Red Heart Queen with Yunshi. Red Heart Queen is the ruler from Nightmare World. Ada is her name, also the name of the Abyss Sovereign. She couldn't be killed. In the past, the god-slaying Sky Sword invaded the Red Heart Queen's dance party and killed her hundreds of times. But no matter how she was killed, she would quickly revive. Her true nature may be some kind of special concept. If you can't understand that concept, you can't harm her, and it's even difficult to get close to her. The Red Heart Queen's dance party randomly sends out invitations, and most of the invited guests never return. At the party, there are foods made by nightmare chefs. Each dish possesses incredible power, even tempting gods with their deliciousness. Therefore, even knowing the possibility of dying, there are still people who want to attend the Red Heart Queen's dance party and get the food on the table. Yunshi, a hero-ranked baker, woke up the soul of his profession, Su. He slightly turned his head to look at the desserts already being served on the table, his eyes shining brightly. Yes, he smelled it. That sweet scent that almost melts a person, and the deadly temptation that sets the soul free. This is something that only exists in the legends of culinary professions. So far, he has only tasted one kind of the legend-ranked food, the divine era wine brewed by Hydera the water god. Even the Ada with the power of a legend-ranked got drunk from it. This sudden Red Heart Queen's masquerade is the phenomenon shown by the drunk Ada. Once the Red Heart Queen's ball is held, it cannot be cancelled. Those invited by the Red Heart Queen will surely be great legends. I don't know how many legends will come later, but even in the records, there is a possibility of falling for even the gods attending this ball. The sacred unicorn saw its future and its heartbeat quickened. Its cheeks flushed, and it revealed a dreamy gaze that would not be regretful even if it died now. Chapter 1247 Yoon. She had no idea that the horns on the forehead of the sacred unicorn he rode were becoming silvery and excited. His attention was now completely focused on Ada the Red Heart Queen dancing. During the continuous spinning dance, the deep red queen's gown began to appear on Ada. It was a gorgeous and sacred enchanting dress. A large V-shaped cleavage exposed the entire upper sphere in the air. The snow-white and soft peaks became more captivating with Ada's graceful dance steps. The location where the foot armor was supposed to be was replaced by white stockings. In the transparent high heels, the slender arch and gentle arch of the foot became even more perfect. The biggest change was in the facial features. The forehead, which once embodied the will of the Abyss Sovereign, opened its magic eye, the iconic symbol of the Abyss Sovereign. But at this moment, that magic eye has closed, and in its place is a red heart mark. The evil eye lord of the abyss. The Red Heart Queen of Nightmares. After drinking the poisonous wine forcefully given by Yunshi, everything started developing in an uncontrollable direction. "Oh prince, don't make the queen wait. Ride on a handsome white horse and bravely kiss the queen's hand." Faced with the most beautiful queen in the world, no one can resist falling in love. A prince who doesn't want to be the queen's lover is not a good prince. The teacup soldiers encouraged Yunshi, surrounding the sacred unicorn. It was clear that Yunshi couldn't say no. "Well then, let's give it a try." Just as the sacred unicorn said, Yunshi noticed the strangeness of the ball before him. Ever since the dance started from the Red Heart Queen, there was no way to escape, and now it's even doubtful if this place is Sia's world. This is definitely not Yunshi's imagination, because Yunshi noticed that the gravity, air, and even the amount of magic in this world are very different from what he knows in Sia's world. Even the concept of the size of objects and the distance between them becomes blurred. The most obvious sign is that even from hundreds of kilometers away, the Babylon Sky Tower, standing on the ground like a sword piercing the sky, has now disappeared without a trace. Such a huge building cannot simply disappear, and the gaze that Yunshi always vaguely felt from tens of thousands of meters above the sky has also vanished. The ancient weapons of the Rift Space Dragon and Underground Cemetery, which are the only ones with high maneuverability and counterattack capabilities in the face of this invasion, didn't qualify to participate in this dance. Similar to the White Lotus secret treasure trial back then, only those who are qualified can enter the dance of the Red Heart Queen. Yunshi was invited as a prince and the sacred unicorn was invited as a white horse. It is said that this legendary dance, where even deities can fall, doesn't send invitations to those below the legend ranked. Riding on the excited sacred unicorn, Yunshi took step by step towards the spinning Red Heart Queen. Closer. Yunshi was extremely nervous and prepared for the worst. Faced with the terrifying presence of the legend ranked, no matter how cautious, it was not enough. This was not the red giant that was suppressed below the legend ranked by Sia's world. This was the nightmare of the Red Heart Queen, who held the ball. "Welcome to my ball, lucky you," Ada blushed, undoubtedly still intoxicated, proving that Hydera's poison wine had a much greater effect than Yunshi had imagined. Even the nightmare sovereign of the legend ranked could be drunk, but he only drank a glass or two every day. This was more extravagant than using a fourth-order golden cream bread to please the girls of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. A fourth-order golden bread could buy a garden villa in the bustling city center of Endless God's domain. How much was a glass of divine-era wine personally brewed by Hydera the water god, unique in the entire Endless God's domain? Because he was used to it and drank regularly, Yunshi felt it was better not to know the answer to this question for his whole life. "Today is a good day. Perfect for holding a matchmaking dance. Come kiss my hand to prove your sincerity, lucky you." Ada with the posture of Red Heart Queen has a completely different vibe from Ada with the posture of Abyss Sovereign. Abyss Sovereign's Ada possesses a magic eye that instinctively instills fear in people, indifferent and merciless, always making accurate judgments, but its existence carries a terrifying spiritual contamination. Morris, the elite knight renowned for his iron will on the battlefield, simply gave up everything when being observed by the Ada and surrendered himself to the embrace of the abyss. Red Heart Queen's Ada possesses a kind of aura that makes one's soul trembling. It seems both enticing and suffocating to be close to. High and untouchable, that enchanting yet dangerous posture instead gives off a completely different deadly allure. "Cannot win." Yunshi affirmed this once again. Ada with the posture of Abyss Sovereign still has the power to fight due to the suppression from Sia's world and the Faceless God. Ada with the posture of Red Heart Queen, on the other hand, managed to bypass the limitations of Sia's world using a certain method, allowing the phenomenon of Red Heart Queen's masquerade to appear in Sia's world. Once the ball begins, there is no way to escape. Unfortunately, when Yunshi realized this, it was already too late. Because in this ball, he was the invited prince. Riding a white horse, the prince chosen by the Red Heart Queen, the host of the Red Heart Queen's masquerade. Dismounting from the white horse, Yunshi lowered his head and kissed the Red Heart Queen's snow-white hand. Things changed. The Red Heart Queen's ball, opening night. The ball is starting, it's starting. The Queen is delighted. Today is the best day. The 12th Red Heart Queen's blind date dance is starting now. Offer cannons for the Queen's will. More fireworks shot up into the sky, forming colorful light curtains, and opening doors to other worlds. With invitation cards marked with red hearts, they spread through the opened doors to Nightmare World, heading towards Endless God's domain. This is a grand event that only exists in the legends among the most intelligent beings at the top levels of Endless God's domain's pyramid. The invitation from one of the Nightmare World kings, Red Heart Queen's masquerade, is both terrifying and opportunistic, as well as challenging. Throughout history, there have been only 5 legendary experts who could emerge unscathed from the Red Heart Queen's masquerade, and there were more than 10 legendary experts who disappeared within it. Those lucky enough to return from the Red Heart Queen's masquerade without exception suffered great mental pollution, some even experiencing a complete mental breakdown, and they remained silent about everything that happened at the dance. Chapter 1248. As the teacup soldiers announced, the party scene in Sia's world started to quickly transform into a more mysterious and unpredictable direction. Yunshi's god without a face. The giant red posture of Ada. Originally, they all had giant-like figures, but with the spread of that mysterious power, they transformed to look more like humans, and even the size of the dining table and chairs became natural. It looks as if the world of this party forcefully transformed creatures of different sizes and shapes to be in the same room without much difference. However, the teacup soldiers, the procession, and the busy food chefs remained small as usual, but their numbers seemed to have increased significantly. One queen, one chosen Prince Charming, and the guests are coming. Get ready, start playing. Out of nowhere, the band appeared at the party, with a fox musician playing the violin, a frog drummer playing the drums, and a group of small bunny-like accompaniment animals. The Red Heart Queen, who had transformed her posture, stood in the center of her fairy tale style band and sang with all her might. It was a song of red, a song that praised destruction and also praised the twilight of love. With this song, the sky started to change color. It went from a misty and chaotic state to a deep red, like blood. The sky is red and burning, burning. Like an eternal vow, an unchanging painting. Whether it's morning or twilight, it's burning. That is the wish of a young girl. The red that burns everything, the black that destroys everything. Do you still remember the swaying forest, the rustling trees, the shadows falling on the trees? We chased after the fleeting sunlight. At that time, I still didn't know the name of the flower I saw that day, but I kept praying for that happiness. Hold your breath, pluck a red maple leaf, and light it up in the sunset. In that beautiful fire, there is the afterglow of the setting sun. The deep red sky is burning fiercely. It is the most regrettable moment that marks the end of today. Tomorrow, the sun will also rise from the other side of the horizon, as if happy days can continue. But impermanence darkness always comes, the gears of life creaking and taking away everything that is important. The fallen leaves will not return. Today the deep red sky is burning for you. For you, everything will burn to ashes. Just like the song of the Red Heart Queen, the sky begins to burn fiercely, countless ignited maple leaves fall from the sky, then they are swallowed by the invisible darkness as it approaches a few hundred meters above the ground. The sky burns even more fiercely, and a certain rule covers the masquerade ball, becoming stronger. Yunshi smells the scent of destiny in it. Perhaps this ball is something that even the ordinary, the legend-ranked cannot escape from. Watching the burning sky, Yunshi has this intuition. So, who are the people who will risk their lives to attend such a dangerous ball? The fact shows that Yunshi couldn't understand what is needed to reach the legend-ranked. As the sky started to burn, invitations began randomly sent to the eligible guests for the Red Heart Queen's masquerade. In the witch god's domain, the Great Witch, wearing an ancient magical cloak and bearing a terrible scar on her cheek, reached out and caught a snow-white invitation falling from the sky. The invitation had a red mark on it, carrying the unique aura of Nightmare World. Is it time for the Red Heart Queen's ball invitation again? The Great Witch at the top of the witch god's domain opened the invitation and looked at the list on it. Even though everyone at the legend ranked knew how dangerous the Red Heart Queen's ball was, there were still reasons why some people were willing to take the risk and attend. The rotten flesh puppet combo. The effect is to obtain a one-time sacrificial flesh puppet that can transfer a curse carried by oneself completely onto the flesh puppet. The main ingredient is the heart of a certain monster from the abyss. As this material only appears in areas with extremely high levels of abyss pollution, even deities find it difficult to obtain. Dream golden apple pie. The effect is to give humans eternal youth. As long as they are not killed, they will not die. It is one of the most famous immortality drugs in the legend ranked. The main ingredient is a fruit called Eve apple. It has disappeared from Endless God's domain in the Twilight War of the Gods, and only Nightmare World still produces it. Holy Angel Feather Skewer. The effect is to grant the eater the protection of angel feathers, allowing them to withstand a deadly attack. It is a superior preventative divine food compared to rotten flesh puppets. The main ingredient is the feathers of high-level holy angels. It is one of the most favored magic mediums for the evil camp in the legend ranked. The special effect of defending against deadly attacks is loved by all races. Freshly cut salad of the war ancient tree. The effect is to gain permanent splitting ability. The clone possesses the wood attribute of the war ancient tree. It is an excellent item for godly resurrection and a top-grade delicacy in the legend ranked. The main ingredient is the body of the war ancient tree, a sacred artifact of the fairy clan. Since the fairy clan protects all war ancient trees very well, except for Nightmare World, there is no way to obtain and process this ingredient. These few legend-ranked foods are almost impossible to obtain except at Red Heart Queen's Masquerade Ball. Even if the raw materials are obtained, it is difficult to find a chef of the same level who can make such delicacies. The fairy tale chef team of Red Heart Queen may look funny, but they are capable of making legend-ranked delicacies. They are the rarest and best chefs in all of Endless God's domain. This time there's actually this. The previous legend-ranked foods were not of much use to the Great Witch. She had the qualifications to refuse this invitation, but the last food on the list made her widen her eyes as well. The Red Heart Queen brought this out again. It's a legendary delicacy that only appeared once during the first Red Heart Queen's masquerade. Blood wine of the Great Queen. Drinking it allows you to have one chance of resurrection. It works for any level. The ingredient is Nightmare Sovereign Red Heart Queen's blood, offering the blood of the greatest queen to the most outstanding performer of the dance party. Even the strongest Great Witch in the Witch God's domain was tempted. The resurrection paid for by Nightmare World is a divine delicacy that even the legend-ranked deities would be interested in. This resurrection is a true and complete resurrection spell that works on deities. As long as one is not unfortunate enough to be completely obliterated by the primordial existence, they can be resurrected from Nightmare World. Chapter 1249. The Red Heart Queen has held 11 parties, and Great Witch Flora from the Witch God's domain has attended 6 of them, making her one of the few guests from the Endless God's domain who can leave the party unharmed. Among all the attendees of the Red Heart Queen's masquerade, she has escaped the most times. All 6 times she successfully left without injury, making her an expert participant of the party. So, let's join again. Getting the chance to have the Queen's special grape wine is rare, maybe only once in 10 times. I wonder what will happen this time. After confirming the food list for the Red Heart Queen's masquerade, the Great Witch Flora from the Witch God's domain pressed her fingerprint on the invitation from the Red Heart Queen, indicating that she accepts the Queen's invitation. The invitations for the Red Heart Queen's masquerade are randomly distributed, but it's not mandatory to attend. All the legend-ranked beings who participate in the Red Heart Queen's masquerade have confirmed that they need the legend-ranked food before deciding whether to attend the ball. The Great Witch Flora from the Witch God's domain is the only legend-ranked witch who has participated in the Red Heart Queen's masquerade multiple times, up to 6 times. She has received the invitation 10 times in total. This is not a coincidence, but the result of the Great Witch Flora using a forbidden spell to interfere with the fate and choices of a certain river of destiny. She has partly bound her fate to the Red Heart Queen's fate, so whenever the Queen sends out an invitation to the ball, she receives it, except for the first time when she didn't. For the existence of legend-ranked beings, the Red Heart Queen's masquerade is both dangerous and an opportunity. Although the chances of successfully escaping the ball are less than 1 in 10, the successful ones do receive the reward of the ball, which is the legend-ranked cuisine prepared by the Nightmare World chefs. Food like eternal youth apple pie is nothing special for ordinary people, but occasionally, There are divine delicacies that even legend-ranked beings would envy. Just like the blood wine of the Great Queen this time, it's something even Great Witch Flora, who has received the invitation 10 times, desires. Remember once, the Red Heart Queen released a special food called Legendary Multi-Headed Dragon that is already as powerful as a legendary item without any extra processing. That time's Red Heart Queen's masquerade became a battleground for many goddesses, with fierce fighting until the skies darkened. The winner was the mighty god-slaying Sky Sword. This time, the blood wine of the Great Queen was even more valuable than the previous legendary multi-headed dragon. It only appeared on the menu during the first Queen's dance, and Great Witch Flora could already imagine how intense this dance would be. Even someone like her, who stands at the peak of magic in the legend ranked, can't guarantee a win. In the history of the dance, there was only one participant, the god-slaying Sky Sword, who managed to slay everyone in an instant. Even the Red Heart Queen herself was killed hundreds of times and the legendary multi-headed dragon was stolen. As Great Witch Flora pressed her own fingerprint, a bright red light was released from the white invitation letter. It was like the last color of the sunset, and a door leading to an unknown place appeared in front of Flora. "I wonder how many people will come to this event," Flora said, holding down her cloak's hood as she casually walked into the bloody door. The first guest of the Red Heart dance, the Great Witch Flora from the Witch God's domain, entered. In the secret underground treasury of the Water God's realm, Ouroboros looked extremely bored as he wrapped his tail around his body. "I don't know, please don't ask me again. I refuse to do any divination about your disciple or your lover. I wouldn't even do it if I were to die. You know very well that after the last divination, I was useless for many years. Even if you kill me, I still won't be able to do any divination." Cassina. Cassina the battle god, with a blissful expression, was drinking the Hydera's finest, fake, wine and using her slender legs to tap Ouroboros' massive head. "Is that true? My sand of time never lies. You still have the ability to do divination. Keep going and believe in yourself, you can do it. You are the most mysterious fortune teller in the entire Endless God's domain. Who else should we seek if not you?" Ouroboros had a fearless expression like a pig facing hot water. He stuck out his tongue and licked the drink spilled by Cassina the battle god, then shook his head and shook it again. The last divination consumed too much spiritual energy. Unless there is a legend-ranked food to supplement it, I cannot start the next divination. Legendary rank food, huh? That's difficult to find. Cassina the battle god also knew that she was in a difficult situation. If Ouroboros divination could be used frequently, she wouldn't have accumulated so much debt and escaped from it like a coward, even though she was a respected fantasy species. Her divination ability seemed mystical, but time proved that it was almost never wrong. She was the only highly recognized fortune teller of the mysterious faction in the Endless God's domain. The ability to glimpse fragments of the future in the River of Destiny belonged to her alone in the entire Endless God's domain. If not for her habit of constantly accumulating debts without paying them back, she would have been caught and barbecued long ago. Only legend-ranked delicacies, like the ones from the legends, could replenish the spiritual energy lost after casting such powerful spells. The legend-ranked food requires precious ingredients of the corresponding level and the extremely rare resources that can only be created by life professions that have disappeared in the Endless God's domain. Even Cassina the battle god herself had only eaten legend-ranked food a few times. The biggest reason she lingered and didn't leave Hydera the water god's place was because there was pseudo-legend-ranked wine here, albeit diluted inferior ones. It still made Cassina the battle god linger and never want to leave. The only place she knew where legend-ranked food would appear was a place mentioned to her by a senior the Sky Sword. However, the timing of the appearance of that place is uncertain, and it is also random whether you can enter or not. In the past, the seniors boasted about how much their chests had grown, and it seems that the legend-ranked food in that place is real. Remember, it's called the Red Heart Queen's Masquerade Ball? A red, transparent door appeared in the wine cellar, and 2 invitations fell at once, one for Ouroboros of the fantasy species, and the undefeated champion of the Battle God's Grand Martial Arts Tournament, Cassina the Battle God. "Oh, look who it is." Cassina the Battle God's eyes lit up. "It's like someone bringing a pillow when they want to sleep. No. This is a trap. I don't want to go. Ouroboros knew something was wrong as soon as they saw the invitation. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.